Amendment right. I choose to exercise my constitutional rights. These cards are available to citizens and non-citizens alike. So these are going to be really handy. I was able to get a copy today from the mock one they did up, but I'm going to bring some for the community so you guys can just stop by. You can also call our office. That's 310-831-1799. Ask for Ernesto, ask for anybody that you want to get some information on your rights, and we can set up a time to discuss this with you. But that's primarily what I wanted to touch upon. I know it's very uncertain. We don't know exactly what's going on. We're working on confirming as much as possible. It's just very difficult with this social media age where
Right.
you really don't know what is true. So if you see something, call the number I gave earlier, the Rapid Response Network.
So you will help with this information brought into the city so we can put it up in our websites.
Yes, I forwarded an email over
Let
to.
me ask you a question. I'm sure council have a question, and we don't have this in the agenda. Can we ask questions, city attorney?
Uh, we're able to ask questions. We're just not able to take any action.
Action. Okay, great. Just the
And I can attempt to answer as best as possible.
okay. No, just want to thank you for this information. And but my question is that most of our the residents who are that don't have their documents, their parents to school, and you know that some of them are pretty scared sending their kids to school. I know that LAUSD is having a meeting, and for those who are here and for those who are watching in YouTube, they're going to be giving up more information. This is going to be Thursday, the 30th at 4:30 at Legacy High School. Are you going to be able to be there?
Yes.
So they can also get this information, which I think is really important, and for us to have some copies so we can pass them out and give them to those that we know.
Y-
That would be very appreciated. But I think that yeah, we need to make sure that they get this information and are aware what they can do and what their rights are.
Exactly. Yeah. So today I really wanted to just emphasize what your rights are, what your resources are in this uncertain position that we stand in. But yes, I can confirm that I was planning to be there this upcoming Thursday. I will have more printed materials to actually distribute among the crowd this time around. And I'll have these little wallet cards, which I think are real helpful moving forward to just distribute to the community. So yes, I'll be there Thursday, and I will have these copies printed for distributing purposes, and I will forward over an email as well with these for
Great.
your
Thank
records.
you. Counselor, have any questions?
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
First of all, can you repeat the information on the meeting because the sound actually just went on, and if
Oh,
anybody's
okay.
listening,
Just for the record, it went back on 7/28. Thank you.
Okay.
so you can repeat the
Yes,
information on
the
the meeting.
information is regarding a meeting the LAUSD is having regarding immigration information. It's going to be on Thursday, January 30th at 4:30 at Legacy High School.
And let me just be clear. So I asked that we reach out to you so you can come in. So I really am grateful that you came in. But it's not just people who may have a concern because they might not have documentation. Uh, some of these so-called experts, they really don't have any clue. And I'll tell you from personal experience, I tried to cross the border and this is, again, many years ago. I was a young man, UCLA student ID. Back in the day, they required a young man to register for the draft, the selective service card. At the time, as a result of an accident that I was involved in, I had about $50,000 in a bank account. I showed all of that. I even had a birth certificate that I got straight from the Hall of Records with the purple seal. For a long time, I kept that. I don't know what happened to it. I'm going to look for it. But the so-called expert of immigration indicated deferred for further proof. And they did not let me cross into our country. I'm not going to call it an interview. They interrogated the hell out of me. They asked me questions as to what schools I went to. I answered all of the questions. And at the end, they said, where did you get trained to answer all these questions? Because you sound good, but you're not getting in here. So the fact that I'm a US citizen, born in this country, didn't seem to matter to these people. So I'm just asking everybody to be very careful, listen to the information that he's providing, and try to get as well informed as you can, because our looks is what they're going to go by.
Yeah.
And that's just the start. I know we didn't ask you to come in prepared, but the decisions that are being made last night in the evening, I reached out to the city manager and I basically said, "Are you watching what's going on? They're cutting back on federal funds." And we have items on CDBG. Those are federal funds that we get. We're going to be voting on things to spend money that these guys are cutting off.
Right.
We're talking about Medicaid. We're talking about potential Section 8. And I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm just telling you, we have no idea what I reached out to our lobbyist in Washington, and he sent me 50 pages with a list of all the things that are on the chopping block. And I asked them, please do me a favor and send them to my colleagues, send them to the city manager, because we need to be aware of what we potentially could be losing. Our state of California provides so much money to the federal government, and they're going to cut it back. These people are out of control. So I hope you can keep on providing us with information, because our residents need to know that that what's happening at the federal level is going to have serious consequences to us. So again, thank you for coming in, and hopefully we can get more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. This all just happened, like you said, last night, this morning. So I definitely didn't come prepared on the budget talk, but I will gather some information, and we will surely update the community when we know how important it is. And
Ernesto?
we look
Thank
forward.
you.
If I can have you please state your name again and your information for the people that are just listening.
Of course.
Thank you.
My name is Ernesto Gomez. I represent the office of Congresswoman Nanette Barragan in the 44th Congressional District, and I am the field representative for the community of Southgate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ernest.
Go ahead,
You
Council.
all may please give me a phone call at our district office at 310-831-1799. And again, that's 310-831-1799. Please give us a call. We are happy to share all these resources with you all. And we're excited to have some more printed on Thursday. Unfortunately, the president caught us a little off guard this morning, so there's just a lot in the air. But we are hoping to get these printed and distribute them to the community on Thursday as well.
Councilwoman Avalos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ernesto, again, thank you for coming in and providing the presentation and information to our community, because I know that the fear is real. It's out there. Seeing the scare this weekend with ICE supposedly being at 2 locations, I know put a lot of people on pins and needles during this weekend. But I also want you to take back to Congresswoman Barragan that she has the full support of this council and the city. And I know that it's a tough situation for her right now, given the state that we are all living in, with all of these executive orders that are coming down last minute that are going to have a financial impact on a lot of our cities and districts and our school systems. Because if the parents leave, I can tell you right now, the kids are going to. And it's the kids that I'm educating on a day-to-day basis. And literally, it's breaking my heart to have to talk to parents and have them tell me, I might not be here tomorrow because I have an appearance in immigration court. So if whatever we can do to advocate for them up in Washington, D.C., I'd greatly appreciate it, because we've all come down that road. However we all got here, we need to remember that we need to help our brothers and sisters and just be supportive. So please let her know that we need to stand together. I mean, I think at this stage, it's going to be hurting not only our pocketbooks, but our family systems, our support groups, and our mental health is literally right now teetering because we just don't know what's going to happen. But thank you. Thank you for making the time. I greatly appreciate it. And if we could have copies, I would like to ask and see if staff can put them on our website just to keep the community informed. So it's both in English and in Spanish. And whatever updates you have so that we
That
can
we
continuously
continue.
be updating our website with that.
Of course,
Thank you.
I forwarded some documents earlier to Giselle, but I can forward them to the appropriate person for the website.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I'll have some of these printed for the city. And I will definitely take back all of your comments to the Congresswoman. We are strongly advocating for everyone's rights in DC. Unfortunately, it is a very, very uphill battle. But we're not going to stop. And like I said, please keep us in mind if we can be of any support when it comes to those folks that are detained. I know often it's difficult to get a response from those agencies, even for us. But technically, they are supposed to respond to us, right? So if we can try, we will. We will do our best to get you an answer and to make sure that your folks are taken care of and accounted for, right? I think that's the big one. And like I said, don't put yourself in threat. Call the response numbers and just stay safe. I will continue to provide you all updates as they come up to me. And like I said, it's going to be a community effort. Please also keep me in the loop when we are when things like this that happened over the weekend happen again. Give me a ring. That's important for me. I'll go check myself if I need to. Right? You know,
Yes.
it's that important for our family and our community.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to first off by saying thank you, Ernesto, for being here, for providing this information for our residents and our community. It's truly is a sad time for us here in Southgate and our surrounding cities when we have to make decisions or have conversations like this when we are just hardworking families in our community who are afraid to go buy groceries, afraid to go to school to drop off their kids, to do your normal day to day, paying your bill here at City Hall, right? I will say that we stand in solidarity with our residents and saying we would not use our police force to do any enforcement action regarding immigration. I will let Chief respond to that portion of it a little later, but the cuts that are coming from our federal government is, I was reading on some of those, the EPA was cut, and we are in a community that is always dealt with environmental issues. We have many brown zones in our community that we receive grants to be able to clean these up, and we're losing those funds because the president says that it's important that we are more efficient in our government. That's uncalled for, right? And then, making student loans harder to get for our children that are going to colleges and our students, right? Who is it hurting? It's not hurting the students that can afford to go to college, who have the parents to be able to pay for it. It's hurting the students that can't afford to go to college, right? Again, it's just a systematic way to hurt the people who are always being hurt, and we cannot let this happen. And please tell Congresswoman Barragan that we are here and we're ready to be soldiers if we need to. Thank you.
Councilman Rios?
Yes, Ernesto, thank you, and send our regards to the Congresswoman. And I just want to say that, echo some of what my colleagues here. I mean, it's a very scary time for a lot of families in our community, and I know the schools are concerned. I work at some of the schools, so I hear, and I know the enrollment's down already. We know that. We know that agriculture is going to be 51% of the workforce in agriculture are immigrants, undocumented. And that means that we're going to be paying higher prices for products, produce pretty soon. And there's a lot of other industries that are going to be impacted. My understanding was that he was going to go out towards criminal individuals, but it seems like that it's a broader net. that's going to impact just regular folks that are contributing to our economy, paying their taxes, and helping. And this is a community of immigrants. I mean, the country is always benefit from the labor pool of immigrants. So I'm just I know we're going to real soon find out more impacts, but it's really it's good that you're here, and I know every day this issue is evolving. So just keep us posted, and we'll do the same.
Madam Mayor, I
Thank-
just want to comment on one of the comments that Mr. Rios made. Yeah, the press secretary today was watching her performance, and she was asked, Madam Press Secretary, the president made it very clear that he was going to go after criminals. But yet it seems that about half of the people that were deported didn't commit any crimes. She responded by saying that when you crossed illegally, you committed a crime. So she cleared it up. They're going after everybody. So if you're thinking they're going after people who committed murder or assault, rape or something like that, no. She cleared that up rather quickly. Didn't mince any words. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Again, Ernesto, thank you for the information, and let's keep up the open communication. Anything that happens, please do inform the city, and especially with the information regarding procedures that our residents can take. Again, thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you.
Can we let the chief respond?
Oh, Chief, do you want to respond on this?
I just have a couple of comments just to make sure that the public's aware of the position of the Southgate Police Department. I've been here since the early 90s, and I don't recall any time where Southgate Police Department has participated in immigration roundups. In fact, local law enforcement does not have the authority to enforce Title VIII of the United States Code. In 2017, the California Values Act was passed, Senate Bill 52 it was, and essentially, Senate Bill 54, and essentially it prohibits local law enforcement from engaging in immigration-related enforcement. That includes asking your immigration status, asking for papers. That's never, to my knowledge, it's never happened here. We focus on penal code crimes in the state of California. The California Values Act does have 6 exceptions when they allow local law enforcement to engage with ICE. And just so everyone's clear, the exceptions are when an individual has been convicted at any time of a serious or violent felony defined in Penal Code Section 1192.7, or the individual has been convicted at any time of a felony that is presently punishable by state prison time. The third exception is the individual was convicted within the past 15 years of a felony listed in Government Code Section 7282.5, or within the past 5 years of a wobbler. And what a wobbler is an offense that can be determined or deemed either a felony or a misdemeanor, depending on the aggravating circumstances of that crime. Or if the person is currently a registrant on the California Sex and Arson Registry. So if you're a sex offender and you come into local contact, you could work with ICE to get them out of the country. Or if an individual has been convicted of certain specific federal aggravated felonies identified in the Federal Immigration and Nationality Act. Those are the only exceptions where local law enforcement may engage in contact with ICE. But I can't recall in recent memory, at least since I've been the chief, where we've actually been contacted by ICE to work with them on getting certain people out of the country. And I do know that county jail is a little exception. The prisons are a little bit different. Those are not our agencies, but trust with our community is very important. I mean, we've built up a relationship with our community for the past 30 years, and we want to continue that trust. And we're not in the business of engaging in immigration-related activity. Hope that clarifies.
Yes, thank you. One of the questions that I did get this weekend is, what is the city doing for stopping for ICE to come into the city? And we can't stop them to come into the city, if that's correct.
That's absolutely correct. In fact, it's a federal crime to investigate or impede a federal investigation, regardless if we're local law enforcement. We prefer any law enforcement agency outside of Southgate to notify us when they're here, just for deconfliction purposes and make sure that our dispatch is aware, because there would be occasions where somebody would maybe not believe that they were a law enforcement agency. Then they call us to respond. They're thinking somebody's trying to get to them in uniform. If we don't have the information with them being here, we can't deconflict. But under no circumstance will we be interfering with an investigation. We wouldn't do that. It would subject our officers to a federal crime, and that's not what we would do.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for that. And again, Ernesto, thank you. And anything that we can do, please do let us know. Okay?
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, so with that, we'll go on to, we'll go on to comments from the audience on non-agenda items. If you have any comments that they are not in the agenda, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, you want that again? Okay, it's Chingus Dominguez, 10607 San Miguel Avenue. Okay, so despite that last email that was turned in opposing the splash pad, I'm going to ask the council members to make a motion. Someone here has to show some courage here and make a motion to have the splash pad included on the next city council meeting agenda. And I want to hear someone second that motion and put that thing on the next agenda, so that way the council members can vote and decide whether or not to approve it as a project and have it included onto our city's list of capital improvement projects for fiscal year 24-25. And if that's not allowed, can we at least turn it into a public hearing and let the public decide whether or not the city should move forward with turning it into a legitimate project and have it be included onto the city's list of capital improvement projects? So there's an agency called Los Angeles County Regional Park and Open Space District. This is the agency that oversees the Measure A funds. And so I got a hold of a lady by the name of Latrina Phillips, who's an assistant grants manager, works for Los Angeles County Regional Park and Open Space District. And I asked her, your grant, does it for Measure A funds, can it be used for the cost of construction of a splash pad as well as for plans and designs? And she informed me that they have two types of grants. One is allocation grants, and then the second is competitive grants. And that the next round of a competitive grants for 2025 is spring 2025. And then she stated to me that yes, both the allocation grants and the competitive grants could be used to foot the bill for the cost of construction and plans and designs. And I said, well, wait a minute, what if the splash pad costs $2 million? Could the competitive and allocation grants cover that? She said, oh, yes. And then she also stated, I asked her, so what about in future years if we had to service and repair our splash pad, maintenance and all that? She said, well, we have a special program for that, in which your city could apply for the cost of service and maintenance. It's a special program for projects that were funded by Measure A funds. And also the CDBG funds. So can we use the CDBG funds to go after $135,000 for plans and designs for a 3,000 square foot splash pad to be built at Southgate Park? Now I'm going to go in front of the Citizens Advisory Committee and ask these folks to allocate that sum to our Department of Parks and Recreation. Now, if they're smart, if they're really smart, they'll say yes. And if they don't, well, you picked them. That's Shitgate for you. What can I tell you? But so if they say no, can we go after the competitive grants in spring of 2025 for the Measure A funds and use that for plans and designs? So council members, I'm asking you to do one thing in 2025, only one thing only, and that is plans and designs. We can build it next year. And by the way, the city of Linwood is, doggone it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dominguez. Next.
Good evening, council, mayor, residents of Southgate. My name is Jennifer Daly. This is the third time I've spoken to the council on behalf of concerned residents who oppose the illegal truck yards in Southgate. I am joined by supporters Gabby Gutierrez, Kirby Blanton, Joanne Kim, Dominic Fawcett, Omar Ruiz, and Felipe Guerrero. They have also brought friends that are here with us. For 2 years, your residents have brought you their concerns about the illegal yards at 8530 Alameda, 4552 Ardeen Street, and 9313 Rayo Ave, and you have blatantly ignored them. The yard at 8530 Alameda Ave has been violating the law and operating without a permit since July 2021. These were temporary agreements during the pandemic, but almost 4 years later, nothing has been done to fix the problem. At 9313 Rayo, Mr. C's Towing has a new tow yard established mysteriously without any permits. This is located directly next to the Tweedy Learning Center and is contaminated, subjecting students to cancer-causing chemicals. Zoning laws and environmental regulations exist to protect the health and safety of residents, as you know, and to ensure that development is sustainable and benefits the people, not corporations and government officials. You have thrown out the environmental impact report and environmental protections by allowing these properties to operate. The area is a source of extreme toxic pollution, including vapor intrusion and contaminated groundwater, and it's making people near the site sick. We have witnessed repeated failures to protect the welfare of your citizens. Are you turning a blind eye to this illegal operation because of financial interests? What council members are supporting the illegal operations of these properties and why? Is there anyone on the council opposing them and supporting the residents? There's another question that's been weighing on many of us. Who are city officials receiving donations from? How much are they for? What do those donations mean for the people? We all know that money has power. Are your donors coming from trucking companies so they can ignore environmental laws and pollute our neighborhoods? Recent news exposing government corruption in neighboring cities like Commerce, I'm sure you guys have heard all about this, have to make us think. Could this be the case for Southgate as well? Is a financial exchange allowing truck yards to operate with impunity? If so, this is not a government failure. It's a theft of resources that should be going into Southgate schools, infrastructure, health, and safety. It's time for the city to uphold the law, enforce environmental protections, and shut down these toxic truck yards. It's time to put people over corporate interests. The residents of Southgate deserve better than to be subjected to cancer-causing pollution and ignored by the very people they elected to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, City Council. My name is Joanne Kim. I'm a sustainable fashion designer and a cancer research advocate. I've lost both parents to cancer, so I'm very passionate about this cause. I'm here today to speak about a critical health issue affecting our community, the pollution from illegal truck yards, particularly the one on 8530 Alameda Street. Recent vapor intrusion testing in this area has revealed alarming high levels of lead, arsenic, and volatile organic compounds. These are toxic substances that directly harm the respiratory, nervous, digestive, and reproductive systems. Long-term exposure to these chemicals can lead to serious health issues, including cancer, which disproportionately affects vulnerable populations, especially children. As I'm sure you know, the connection between these environmental toxins and the rise in cancer causes is proven. The levels of contamination found in Southgate are not just a concern, they're a public health crisis that cannot be ignored. These illegal truck yards have been allowed to operate without proper oversight, bypassing critical protections like the environmental impact report and the conditional use permit process, which are meant to safeguard the health of our residents. So I have to ask which council members would allow these detrimental truck yards to continue operating unchecked, knowing the health risks they pose, and why? It is unacceptable that this situation has been allowed to persist. The city and the responsibility to uphold the law and protect its residents. Shutting down these illegal contaminated trucks and truck yards and beginning the cleanup process is not just a request, it's an urgent need. I urge the City Council to take immediate action, enforce the law, hold these trucks yards accountable, and prioritize the health and safety of Southgate's residents. This issue cannot wait any longer. Thank you.
Good evening, Southgate Mayor and City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Kirby Blanton, and I work in early education and mental health in Los Angeles. I'm here to speak on the damage being caused by deals the council has made with illegal truck yards in Southgate. I want to raise a serious concern about Southgate's future, one that's been made clear by the recent scandal in Commerce, where city officials were caught accepting bribes, costing taxpayers millions. This corruption often starts with seemingly harmless deals made under pressure, and during the pandemic, many cities like Southgate and Commerce faced financial struggles. Some of these rushed agreements with private companies, especially in industries like trucking, need to be examined closely. Now, years later, we need to ask, were these deals made to benefit the community, or were they made to benefit corporate interests at the expense of the people who live here? Just as Commerce is now paying the price for their unchecked decisions, we must ensure Southgate doesn't follow the same path. Another concern is the growing influence of donations to local government officials. It's critical to maintain transparency and ensure the external influence is guiding city decisions. If these donations are shaping policies that harm Southgate's residents, that's a direct conflict of interest that we must address. Most importantly, we must protect the resources that should be benefiting our community, especially in education and mental health services. The money that should be directed into our schools, our infrastructure, and our residents' health is being diverted to serve corporate interests. This is theft, not just of money, but of the future of Southgate's children, schools, and the vital health support so many people rely on. It's time to review these past agreements, ensure they comply with the law, and correct any mistakes made. You need to put Southgate's future first by upholding transparency, enforcing environmental protections, and ensuring that the money meant to serve our community goes toward education, mental health, and public services, not into the pockets of those who break the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Gabby Gutierrez, and this is my partner Dominic, and we're both here to support the people of Southgate against the illegal truck conversation that we've all been having. I am a diver, an aquarium educator, ocean advocate, environmentalist. I'm here for my second time speaking, third time at this council, third time for him as well. And we are here on behalf of the over 300 residents who signed the petition calling for the immediate shutdown of the illegal truck yards in Southgate, particularly the one at 8530 Alameda Street, if you didn't get that before. For over 2 years, your residents have been raising concerns about the dangerous levels of groundwater contamination and vapor intrusion in this area. Despite repeated emails, calls, and petitions, your residents have been ignored. What makes this situation even more troubling is that the truck yard at 8530 Alameda Street was allowed to bypass important environmental processes, like the environmental impact report and the conditional use permit process. These processes are in place to ensure that the impacts on the community, on health, water, and air are fully evaluated before businesses can operate. Allowing this truck yard to bypass these regulations has put everyone at risk. These truck yards are a serious threat to the public health. Water and air tests show toxic levels of contamination, endangering residents living nearby. Lead, arsenic, and VOCs are seeping into groundwater, which is Southeast LA's drinking water and draining into the ocean. As a longtime environmental advocate, I've seen the devastating effects of industrial negligence, and I can tell you that this issue will only worsen the longer it is left unaddressed. With the devastating fires in Los Angeles, we are seeing the clear effects of climate change, and every city government needs to do their part by enforcing environmental protections to protect future generations. We understand there are challenges, but the city must prioritize the safety of its people. Shutting down these illegal truck yards and addressing the contamination is not just a request, it's a responsibility to protect Southgate's residents. The yards have operated for almost 4 years without permits, and people can no longer afford to wait. The time to act is now. We're asking the city to hold the illegal truck yards accountable and ensure proper cleanup of these areas. The health of the community should never be compromised for the sake of corporate interests. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Davila and council members and staff. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here today. Now, on a more positive note, okay, my name is Roger Sadi. I am a teacher at Southeast High School, and I am the volleyball coach. I've been coaching volleyball there for about 15 years. Before that, I coached football at Southgate High School and at Southeast High School as well. Back in 2007, we took a group of football players to go play in Maui, Hawaii. And it was a very successful venture for both the athletes, but we had a lot of support from our city. Two members that were still back then are still here with us, Mr. Hurtado, which was a big supporter, and Mayor Davila as well. Since the school opened in 2005, she's been our supporter. So this year, I want to do it again, but with a volleyball team. It made a big impact on our players back then, and I'm sure it's going to make a big impact on our players now. A couple of our players that went to that event are also working for the city as well now as professionals. I have parents here with us that are also going to speak, but we like your support, and it took 6 months for the district to get us approved. So that's why I'm here so late. The trip is in April, spring break. Okay, but we're trying to gather as much funds as we can. Obviously, airline tickets, food, cost for museums. We want to give them the entire culture experience over there, not just go play volleyball and come back. Just the same way we did with our football players back then. There's 16 players that we are taking. Average cost per player is about $2,000. So I know the times are tougher now, but if we could get, any support would help us out. We have one of our parents that's also going to speak.
Good evening. My name is Marisol Carpintero. I am a resident here at Southgate. I live in 3135 Iowa Avenue, Southgate. Okay, so our kids have been working hard on fundraising. They started recycling a month and a half ago and have raised $255 so far. Additionally, they've held a sweater sale, but it still wasn't enough to cover the trip to Hawaii. Most of the kids have never traveled outside California, let alone Los Angeles. This trip inspires them to think outside the box and believe in their ability to achieve bigger goals and size new opportunities in their future. As a parent, I've seen how my son has grown through sports and discovered the importance of education. This experience can only help him realize that with hard work and discipline, he can achieve anything that he is willing to pursue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And these are the boys right here. We have them right here.
And you have the pictures. It's good to see you, Sadi. It's really good to see you, and congratulations on taking those kids to Hawaii. Where in Hawaii did you mention? Is it Maui again?
No, we're going to Oahu.
Oahu.
Yes.
Been there. Make sure, give me a call. I'll make a check out. The reason I ask is because I want to make sure it goes directly to that fund. Because typically when there's fundraising that goes on, part goes to the team, part goes to the student body. And with all due respect to the student body, I want to make sure it goes all to the team.
So the agreement with the principal and administration, I gave the letters here to your clerk. 100% of everything that we fundraise or gets donated goes to this function.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got the letter. I'll make sure that we make copies for I think they all got a letter. Okay.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you guys for your support.
When is the last day to donate? I'm sorry.
The trip's April 13th through the 18th. So hopefully we get all donations like if by the end of March at least,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
because you got the youth commission, you got service clubs that can also be helping you.
Awesome. That's
Rotary
grateful.
is here,
That's grateful.
so
Thank you guys.
Looking forward to it. And I will definitely give you a donation myself.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Lisette Ruiz. I live on Coffin Avenue. And first of all, I wanted to thank you guys for holding space to talk about the immigration issue. personally, I grew up in the early 90s, and I was raised by my grandmother who was undocumented. And so I remember, having that fear of going out and was mentioned earlier, running errands and not knowing whether or not, she was going to be taken away, and having to remember my phone number, my in my address. So, just so that I wouldn't be, left somewhere alone. But I'm really glad that that's something we're talking about, and hopefully that information will be dispersed. I have been seeing signs throughout the city, letting people know about their rights. So I'm grateful to who's ever putting that out. And I'm glad that you're all putting out just the support that we all have for our immigrant community, and definitely, whatever we can do to help each other out is great. On a lighter note, I did want to bring awareness to a couple of issues I brought up with some of the parks. Recently, as a parks commissioner, I took it upon myself to take my baby to some of the park playgrounds and really, look at some of the state that a lot of the playgrounds are in. And I'm glad to say that parks took care of a lot of those issues. Southgate Park, the swings were put back or replenished. About half of them were missing. So those were taken care of. At Hollydale Park, there's plyboard on some of the equipment, and that was fixed. And I actually did see a post about somebody with a paintball gun just shooting at the playground at Hollydale Park. And last week, it was already cleaned up. So I'm really glad that, park staff are really on it, because, a lot of our parks get a lot of kids, and it's an escape for many of them. It's, the activity that they can do. And so I'm really grateful for that. On another note, with the environmental issues, that's definitely something out of our reach. A lot of the Superfund sites last time around during the Trump era were paused. As a CHAT member, we were in communication with some of the EPA folks about that. And so, it's no surprise that unfortunately the work and the progress has been halted, which is really sad, because our water, they're right up on our aquifer. So it's definitely something we want to take care of.
Thank
and-
you.
and Look to finish. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, Council. Amy Liu from Leland R. Weaver Library, which is now closed. We're only closed for renovation. We're not forever gone. We're going to be back sometime in the fall, hopefully sooner, but we really don't know. Construction projects have a mind of their own. In the meantime, our other county library that's serving the city, Hollydale Library, is going to be open an additional day. They are now open also on Saturday from 10 to 6, welcoming customers, families that need the library, need the internet, and hopefully soon we'll also start to offer additional programs. I have here with me today Stephanie Lynn. She's actually overseeing Hollydale in the meantime. So we do have some flyers and some informational bits to send to Giselle to post on the website and to post on social media about some of our upcoming programs at Hollydale. So I'm going to have Stephanie mention a couple of those now.
So thank you. Again, my name is Stephanie Leanne. I'm overseeing Hollydale Library. Right now, we currently have for February, we have our story time. We have our story time for ages 2 to 5. We have our book clubs for adults in English and Spanish as well. We're taking that over from Leland Weaver Library. We have STEAM programs for kids coming up as well as regular creative model magic programs. And we have programs for teen as well. We're doing a ceramic mug decoration. And for adults, we also have coloring and book folding coming up for February. So we have a lot of things going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
How long is the library closed for? And
We hope it will be closed from now until the fall.
okay,
But again, we're at the behest of construction workers.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. But it's, yes.
Hello, Mayor, City Council members, and residents of Southgate. My name is Omar Rees. I am a 20-year-old student, lifelong resident of Southgate. My family, friends, and I have been working for the past 2 years to raise awareness about the dangers and unsafe pollution on the roads caused by illegal truck yards at 8530 Alameda Street, 4552 Ardine Street, 9313 Rayo Avenue. We've gathered hundreds of signatures, listened to countless residents share their concerns about the worsening conditions in our city. People in our community are living in toxic truck yards, dealing with serious health problems. Kids can't walk home from school or play outside because of dangerous truck traffic and lack of pedestrian safety. There have been several fatalities caused by the truck accidents. The air polluted and riding a bike in Southgate is nearly impossible because of the roads overran by truck traffic. People can't sleep at night because the trucks run overnight and residential streets. The companies litter neighborhoods and take up parking. My family and I are deeply worried about the health and future of our community. We've tried reaching out to city council in every way possible, but you are ignoring us. How are we supposed to trust our city to protect us when corporations are breaking the law and damaging our environment? It feels as if the city council hopes we'll go away if we're ignored long enough, but we won't. Our health and safety are too important, and it's our responsibility to protect them. We need actions now. Please listen to your residents and make changes necessary to protect our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Evening, Council. Armando Velasquez, Independence Avenue. Just a few announcements for your Southgate Kiwanis Club. Just February is around the corner, and so we already have a list of outstanding projects that we invite our youth and community to join us. February 13th, we will be having our monthly special Valentine's Day Bingo Loteria Night at the Southgate Senior Villas on San Antonio Avenue. One of our newest key clubs at Burton Tech, whose principal is an alumnus here from Southgate High School. They will be creating Valentine's cards for the senior residents, as well as spending time with them as they hand them the cards. So they're not just sending the cards, they're going to spend time with them. On February 15th, we'll have our monthly Kiwanis cleanup. That will be at Montera Avenue Elementary, Saturday, February 15th, 9 a.m. until 10:30. It's only an hour and a half, but they do a lot of work there. And in about a week or so, we're going to be launching our scholarship program. And by that, for the 5th straight year, we're going to be offering scholarships, which honestly started with only $1,000. But due to generous donations from Kiwanis members, alumni, even council members outside of Southgate who used to go to either Southgate or Bell, right now we're looking at about $7,000 in scholarship distributions, and our scholarships are considered AFLAC scholarships. You all know AFLAC, right? Everyone gets their academic scholarships. Well, our scholarships are considered AFLAC, meaning the funds that we give them that goes directly to them are typically used for maybe their housing, for their meal tickets, for, if in case they get the meal option. So we are soliciting in case anyone wants to do a memorial scholarships. Most of the scholarships come from individuals who want to recognize their parents for their support in their higher education. So you will see that application next week, but as always, it's for the youth. Scholarships can also be used for our leadership conferences. We typically send our high school students to 2 different conferences, one within the state of California, sometimes Nevada. This year it's in Ontario in April. So all of 6 of our high school key clubs, we're going to aim to send them there. And in July, our goal is to send some of them, if not at least one representative from each school, to Orlando, Florida in July. So these scholarships go from academic to AFLAC version to leadership conferences. And just on a little bit of a side note, the Southgate Kiwanis at Gmail account, it has an email distribution list of nearly 1,000 people. We contacted Google, but it seems that we can no longer email individuals that use the @sogate.org domain. So we're looking it up on the Google side. They've always told us to contact the city of Southgate, just in case that maybe there's just like a little button that can be pressed saying, all right, they can receive emails. We do have members who receive emails. City officials receive those emails. So we just want to make sure that they're being received. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, once again. I think the nerves went away already the second time around.
I do want to thank the illegal truck yard group that's here. 4 years later, and nothing has been done is very concerning.
Can we have your name for the record, please?
Javier. Of course, yeah. 4 years is insane. Yeah, it takes you guys 30 minutes to get to the Azalea Shopping Center to remove the food cart vendors away from there. But it's been over 4 years and you guys cannot remove illegal. It's insane, right? It's mind-blowing actually. So if that's not concerning to this group here, we might have the wrong people up here, no guys? So obviously the marginalized community of Southgate are a bigger priority and a target for the local law enforcement, right? I'm glad that we have Chief Arakawa here, and thank you for your words regarding the immigration. And I do agree that we should not be getting involved with the immigration. With all the budget cuts and everything else that we have going on, we should allow that just for federal funds. So I do like that, we're not going to be involved with that. Let's see. I do request from the city council that we do create information events as far as the immigration goes, guys. I don't think that we should be relying on just the LAUSD at this, whatever school they're going to do to hand out this information. I think the city should be taking really good initiative. And if we could be, one of the first cities to do an event like this, it would be groundbreaking. No, I think our community deserves that. In addition, I think that we do need a wealth of information, like City Council Member Avalos, right? She said that we do need the information in both Spanish and English. I would appreciate as well if we can get a live interpreter in these city council meetings so that everybody on YouTube can also, be able to understand in live what is being said, and everybody on YouTube that's listening to me, I have only 55 seconds, but if you guys are in driving distance, please come to these city council meetings. I'm very disappointed in the turnout that we have going on here, especially with everything going on in the world. Yeah. Last but not least, let's see. Wildfire preparedness. What are we doing for the wildfires? What's the preparedness for that? It's huge. I want to know, like, if we're testing the water pressure, who are we working with to make sure that we are prepared if unfortunately this natural disaster like a wildfire should occur. And the speeding, back to the speeding from the closed session, like I spoke about, we have a lot of speeding traffic on Santa Ana, particularly Santa Ana and San Carlos. I know that we do share a border with Huntington Park, but the speeding is out of control. We just had a car accident on Saturday. 6 vehicles were involved, and speeding is insane in Southgate, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, last call for comments from the audience, not in the agenda. I'm gonna close the audience section. Do we have any non-agenda items, emails?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 2.
Go ahead.
One is from Veronica Figueroa. She states that there has been an ongoing request for crosswalk at Long Beach Boulevard and Orchard Place, but progress has been very slow. This remains a safety concern, particularly for the children crossing in a high-traffic area. Both parents and school have been requesting this for some time now, and yet their voices have not been heard. The city's 2019 traffic study recommended only north and southbound crosswalks, not east and west. I believe the next step should be a deeper discussion about the area's safety needs and potential actions. Additionally, could you please advise if gathering signatures for a petition would be helpful in supporting this request? Thank you. And then I have another one from Claudia Rivera. She says, I would like to remind everyone that Councilman Al Rios is unable to vote on the SO5 project when the issue of alcohol sales is discussed, as he has been openly campaigning against it, meeting with people, and sending emails about his opposition. I have also attached the constitutional principles of the right to fair and unbiased decision-making process by our policymakers for your review. Thank you.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right,
Mayor.
thank you. Okay, so at this time, we'll go on to comments from city officials. We'll start with Arturo.
Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. I guess I'll address some of the
Okay, well,
commentary.
and staff, if you can respond to any of the questions that were asked.
Yeah, I can address the questions on what are we doing about the forest fires, wildfires here in terms of our water system as well as a crosswalk on Long Beach Boulevard. Firstly, we did get the request to install a crosswalk on Long Beach Boulevard at Orchard to provide for safe access to KIPP Elementary School that is there. We did do a deep dive to get a really good understanding of why the school itself didn't install a crosswalk there, also whether we could meet state requirements for safety to install one. What we learned in that process is that the school has a designated access route for students to safely get to school. They did not choose that intersection to be a safe intersection for student access. And there they designated the crossing at Ardmore and Long Beach that has a traffic signal. On whether or not we could add a crosswalk, that becomes an issue. The main reason is that that intersection is too close to a traffic signal. As cars are darting across a green light, it's not safe to try to get them to stop on the other side for pedestrians or what have you. So we've done as much research and analysis as we could, and both the school's not recommending it, and neither is our city traffic engineer. So for that reason, we are instead adding signage to guide student pedestrians to the nearest traffic signal, which is not too far away, just a few hundred feet north. With regards to the water system, the wildfires that were experienced up north in some of the cities up north are a little different in the type of emergencies that the city of Southgate could encounter. Nevertheless, we are prepared with our water system. We do have a very reliable water system. It offers more capacity by about 25% than we need to sustain the city. We have water reservoirs with over 14 million gallons of water storage, and we have a number of interties with numerous other agencies, including an intertie with the MWD. And what that is the equivalent of a faucet that can feed water to our system. So there is a lot of redundancy, and at a council meeting in the near future, we'll be bringing forth, with the city manager's approval, a mutual aid agreement to also, in case there is an emergency, we can reach out to other water utility companies for support. So I believe the city of Southgate is well prepared for any emergency that requires the water system. And that concludes my report.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you,
if I
Art.
can
Yes.
ask a question in regards to the crosswalk. They're on Long Beach and Orchard, is that correct?
That's
So you indicated that we cannot put a simple crosswalk like we did like on Firestone for St. Helens because it's too close to the next signal. Is that correct?
There's two main reasons. One is the proximity to that next signal. Two is the volume on Long Beach Boulevard. And three, the traffic study that the school itself prepared is not recommending that their students not cross at intersections to keep them safe. They're recommending their access route for kids and parents to use the intersection at Ardmore, where there is a traffic signal. It's just a few hundred feet away, and the exchange of walking a few hundred feet, you get safe crossing. So that's the reason.
So then I asked myself, why is it that on Firestone Boulevard in Long Beach, it's a major intersection, just the next block is Willow, and we have lights?
Is that the flashing?
No, it is not the flashing. It is an actual signal. In the next block, we have the flashing, which is a crosswalk, which is on Glenwood. And in the next block, we have Southern and Long Beach, which is another signal. So I'm hearing you, but it's not resonating with me because we've already had community members that have lost their lives on Orchard and Long Beach. And I would think that just putting some signage of crossing would probably slow down the traffic, because on one side, you have signals like every block, and on the other side, you don't.
I do want to just kind of add some distinction between what we're talking about in terms of Long Beach and Firestone Boulevard. This intersection is at the school. It's a direct access to the school. If we provide a pathway for higher volumes of students to cross, we might be creating a safety issue, which is what we're trying to address with the crosswalk. So it's a little counterintuitive. In terms of the proximity of intersections, we're looking at things on a case-by-case basis, right? Here, the very school that installed the school itself is saying, we don't want kids to cross at that intersection. We want them to cross a block away at an intersection that is signalized. If we wanted to signalize that intersection, it's something that we could do, but you've got to start considering the impact to traffic congestion. If you try to drive Long Beach Boulevard already, there's a few on the north side of the railroad. There's a few intersections with traffic signals very closely spaced, and it's creating a lot of congestion, and we're getting a lot of complaints, right? So we're trying to balance things, but at the end of the day, I think the governing factor here is simply what the school's traffic study said. They want their kids to cross at Ardmore and Long Beach Boulevard, not at the intersection of Archer and Long Beach. And sometimes we think that just a little bit of signage will help keep everybody safe. Sometimes it provides that false sense of security where folks feel, well, it's safe, there's a sign here, I'm just going to dart across. And if there is an accident, I believe it would create a liability to the city. But I'd be happy to have discussions with the city manager and see if we should consider that further.
We've already had several lives lost in those intersections. That's why the community is advocating for them. But thank you.
Understood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Steve?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. So this Thursday, January 30th, 4:00 p.m., we will finally open up Hollydale Community Park for the public. We'll be having the grand opening ceremony at that time. It's taken us a little while to get all this going, but finally, after a lot of work, a lot of grants and other things from different agencies in different areas, we have a grand opening date. We invite the public to come on over. There's some great areas for kids to play at, picnic areas, buildings, things like that. So come join us on that day, January 30th, 4:00 for our grand opening ceremony. And that's all I have.
Steve, were the residents around the area notified?
Yes, we actually have sent out teams of our staff who have put up door hangers on every door within the neighborhoods around there. So we've done notifications. We have a big banner that's sitting on the front of the park with the time and place for the grand opening. And I believe there's been some social media notices too. So we've been pretty much blanketing everyone to tell them.
Could I just add, Steve, do you know the address right there? Because there occasionally is people that might be confused between Hollydale Regional and Holiday Park, just to make sure they get to the right place for the party.
The address is 12221 Industrial Avenue in Southgate.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, community development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, just wanted to thank you for your welcome as your interim community development director. I don't have any specific comments with my short tenure. I'll look for the city manager's assistance for any response information you may have to some of the public comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome aboard. Wendy.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Administrative Services Department has nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. John?
Mayor and council members, I'll keep it brief. For anybody interested in working for the city of Southgate, go to cityofsouthgate.org and we have a jobs tab and we are recruiting for several different positions right now. So please take a look and apply.
Thank you. Chief?
Mayor and council, I wanted to just briefly touch on a couple of the issues that we're talking about with respect to speeding. I do agree we have a lot of irresponsible drivers out there. And looking at the statistics, the crime report statistics from 2024 that I'm putting together, we actually in the department wrote an additional 1,016 moving violation citations from the previous year. So this in 2024, we issued 2,300 citations. The top 3 violations were speeding failure to stop for a stop sign, and failure to stop at a red light. I hear your concerns about speeding. I totally understand that's a priority in our traffic division. It's not just a phenomenon happening in Southgate. I talked to the chiefs in all of LA County, just people are just being irresponsible trying to get from one place to another. So we're taking enforcement action, impounding cars when it's appropriate, and we're doing our very best with trying to keep that under control. With respect to police pursuits, we have a fairly strict policy on when we can pursue. We don't pursue for property crimes or misdemeanor crimes anymore. We get alerted on stolen vehicles. We'll attempt to pull them over. If they flee, then we let them flee because the risk for jeopardizing community safety doesn't outweigh the arrest of an individual. So under certain circumstances, when there's a felony involved, then we'll pursue, but we still monitor it based on the time of day, the pedestrian traffic, the vehicular traffic, and we do our very best to take those people into custody. But our supervision has done a really good job at canceling pursuits. I mean, that's just phenomenal. And since I've been the chief, we've never been involved in a pursuit where an officer was involved in a collision. So it's a work in progress, and we're just hoping that we get cooperation from more motorists to just slow it down. That's all.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, community members. Just wanted to provide update on two things. One, an update on the illegal trucking items that were brought forth. It is definitely an issue that we take seriously at the city, although progress can look slow. There is administrative action and review ongoing with the Alameda property, which we're not able to speak of publicly at this point, but there is work and discussion going on. The Mr. C's towing site that was referred to, we are working with them and are working in concert with the name eludes me now, but the federal department that oversees Superfund sites or damaged sites. So Mr. C's is working within a narrow lane as they're preparing their formal application for their permits. Their lot that they've purchased has two separate zoning. It's kind of strange that way. So it's been delineated. We've had discussions. They are parking on the front part, the Rayos side of the property only, which is zoned that includes the ability to operate a trucking operation. They're working on a submittal, which will take several months to rezone the remainder of the property to allow that use. We're not allowing them to illegally use areas not zoned. And any improvements to the property need to get sign off from both the federal department as well as the city. And so those improvements will be very minimal because they can't disturb the soil for fear of it as it's contaminated. But there are allowable uses for properties that are contaminated. But we as a city defer to the federal agency. So we're working in concert with them. We do have our eyes on that, and we appreciate you bringing it forward. And it's not something that we typically have big billboards sitting around explaining everything. So I can understand there's concerns that maybe something's happening or, we're trying to ignore something or there's something like that. It isn't that. Sometimes also administrative review, like at Alameda, can take quite a long time and it can be frustrating. So I appreciate that. And the Ardeen site, I'm going to have to review, have our staff review just to make sure we've got our eyes on that. There may be some work on that. I'll be working on that site, and actually we'll have David, our interim community development director, take the lead there. But I appreciate you folks keeping an eye on things and asking questions, and we're here to work together. Thank you. Oh, and the last thing is just doubling up for the community, this hidden gem, Hollydale Park, not Hollydale Regional Park, on industry it's amazing the work that's been done there to transform that place. So plan on coming at 4:00 on Thursday, tacos, and there's a basketball court. I like basketball. We're going to shoot some hoop and check it out. Thanks.
Thank you. Our city attorney is not here. We'll come back to him. He's back. City treasurer.
No new items to report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. City clerk.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Avalos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank, obviously, Congresswoman for being out here, having the representative out. Thank the community that is out here, because I think your civic engagement is important. We need to hear from the community, and I concur with you, Javier. It would be nice to see more residents out here. But given the times that we're living in right now, I understand the fear that's going around. But other than that, just know I am there for you. I am here for the community. My doors are always open. I'm available to any community member who has any issues. Please, I'll be more than happy to sit down with you and discuss them and see how we can all work together to find solutions to the problems that are plaguing the entire community and now apparently the entire United States. Other than that, Madam Mayor, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilwoman. Councilman Hurtado?
Yes. So yeah, we've talked to the chief before about the speeding and other violations. I got to tell you, it's frustrating driving and seeing where a light turns red and drivers still go through. It's complete disregard for public safety. And we're talking about even during the time that children are leaving school, these drivers are just out of control. And again, hopefully we're able to address those issues. We got a lot of schools in our community and these drivers are really, really out of control. To the folks that come in and talking about the environmental issues, believe me, we want to make sure you understand that we are looking into these things. When these items are being looked at through the process of litigation, it keeps us from wanting to respond because we could be in violation, but you are not being ignored. Let me just make sure that you know at least who I am, and I can tell you, I know all my colleagues feel the same way. I actually have my degree in global studies, which deal with environmental issues. I have a lot of respiratory problems because of the issues where I grew up right next to the Santa Ana Freeway in East LA, and all that gunk in the air. You look at the wall, that's the color of the sky during the 60s and 70s. That's what it looked like. I live a stone throws away from the 710 freeway, so breathing in all that gunk doesn't help me. My wife suffers from migraines. Every day she wakes up with migraines because of all the stuff that we're breathing in. I have an assortment of trucking companies that are around me. We're talking about Rockview, JB Hunt, World Oil. What's the roofing company out there? Malarkey, thank you, all of those. And I see them every day. And so it's bad. We totally get that. But I always welcome you. Come on in, keep on talking to us, keep on putting it on record, keep on sending those emails. We want to hear from you. And we are taking action. It's just we can't really respond to what you would like to hear, but you are not being ignored. You're just not. We are taking this thing seriously. Understand why. For me, I have a grandson, I have a granddaughter, and what people before us, and I'm not talking, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we're talking about decades of neglect to our environment. It's something we really, our generations here are trying to address and prevent from continuing to damage our earth. A lot of people don't believe in this. I think the mistake that was made at the beginning is they called it global warming. And so people say, oh, look, it's raining. Where's the warm? No, it's the climate change. And it's caused by what people before us did. And so, no, you're not being ignored. We are going to take a look at all these things as seriously as we can. Sometimes I get requests for meetings and I talk to people and they want to know why we can't put speed bumps or why we can't put certain traffic control. If it was like a thing we can just do like that automatically, we really can't. The Public Works Director, Art Cervantes, mentioned that there was a traffic study done by the school. Traffic studies basically give what they refer to as recommendations. They're not recommendations. Once they recommend something, it means you have to follow it. Because if you don't, the first time there's an accident, some attorney's going to come in and say, I want to see what the traffic study said. Oh, look, it said not to put a crosswalk here, and you did it anyway. Lawsuit against the city of Southgate. And so it puts us in a conundrum where we want to do something, and we just can't because of that traffic study. We don't do the traffic study. The state of California does. And maybe the director can actually give us more information on that. I'm not an expert in that area, but I do know that whenever people ask us to do certain things like that, we have to rely on the experts that tell us what we can and cannot do. In terms of speed bumps themselves, I tell people that as good an idea as that may sound, it really isn't. You ask our police officers when they're responding to a crime, will that slow you down? The answer is yeah. You talk to a paramedics that's trying to get to a call for somebody asking for emergency, a heart attack or what have you. Do you want speed bumps? No, the answer is no. And so again, we have to be careful because as much as we might want something, it really might not be the best idea. That's why we have to rely on the traffic studies. But again, I bring those things up because again, it gets brought up a lot, and there's comments that are made that saying that we're ignoring people, and it's far from the truth. Every time someone brings in a situation like that, we direct staff, can you take a look at this? What do the traffic studies show? What can we do to try to make it safer for our residents? You know, the law in the state of California changed, saying that people can no longer park within 20 feet of a crosswalk. Why? We have parking issues. Well, the reason is you want to make visibility better when people are making that turn. But go out there and take a look. People are still parking. And then you see people walking. What happened to the days of look both ways before you cross the street? People are looking at their phones, and people are listening to their headsets, and people are not even looking not even one way, let alone both ways. So again, I think, you know, we want to address all the issues, but understand that there are some things that keep us from doing that again. And we're not in a position where we want to go out and give citations to everybody that's out there. We understand there's a parking issue, but please help out. Don't park on those corners. Allow the visibility for the driver so that there's, you know, we can save someone's life crossing the street. And that's about it. I think we covered a lot of the stuff with the representative from Congress, but look, we wake up every morning to some other chaos, and it's really bothering me that, you know, our budget could be highly impacted, and we're talking serious stuff. Mental health programs are listed, assistance to children with special needs. Those things are on the list. Again, I took a look at the 50 some odd pages, and each page has a whole bunch of entries that they're looking at blocking. And it's rather disturbing, and a lot of that money that we get from the federal government is on that list. So again, just stay tuned, call your congressional people. Oh, and in regards to having something here in the city of Southgate, yeah, I had reached out to our congressional people to see if we can do something. And that request came about a week or so ago, actually, because the day that the announcement was made that ICE was going to be out there, and they're using the Homeland Safety people out there. They're going all, now they're trying to bring in the military. And I told some friends of mine, I think that's going to be a little bit more difficult because there's a thing called the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which prohibits the federal government, the president, from using the military to enforce certain things. However, they can do it if they get Congress approval. I don't think they're going to get that. But again, every day we're trying to keep our eyes open, our ears open, and hoping that the impacts of this president don't impact us all that much. So again, stay tuned. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Rios.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you folks here for being here tonight and spending your evening with us. We really appreciate you being here tonight. I know it's not easy when a lot of you work or go to school and all of that, and you're spending time here, but it's important that you know, help us govern the city. I mean, because you are part of the city, and we appreciate you being here this evening. A couple of things, just, and I know the people left, but I am concerned about the environment, just like my colleague, all of us are, and it's unfortunate. But some of these things take time because of litigation and things like that. But I'm really worried about the next administration because they don't believe in the environment, taking care of our environment, or they don't believe that there's climate change. And I'm just concerned that that might upend some of the good things we've done in regards to the environment and being responsible. But I know that we do have some areas that are very contaminated and long-term exposure and especially the children. And I know that I've had colleagues that lived here in the community that have died of cancer. Some areas seem to be a little higher in our community, and it is kind of scary that we have the situation where we're dealing with this. And the corporate people that were there, they just left without responsibility of taking care. And we're having to clean up some of those things. So I'm really concerned. And I want to make sure that we follow up on if there is a threat to the safety of the community, the health and well-being, that we find out a little bit more about that, vapors and those kinds of things. I just don't like the sound of it. So hopefully, I think it's important that whatever we can do in the city level, Rob, in terms of those concerns that health is at risk, let's check it out. I mean, I think, we're not the health department, but working with them, if there is a threat in around those areas there is those.
Yeah, I can just share that those Superfund sites are tested. Our water system, although, there can be concerns of contaminants, it's tested thousands of times a year, every day, multiple times, all the time. There's every drop of water we get out of wells has to be 100% safe. So there's no worry of a contamination in our water. But the Superfund sites and the funding is supposed to clean these up over time, and many in Southgate have been cleaned up, so we certainly want that. As far as overall environmental, we're in an airshed that includes the port, includes all LA traffic, all of LA, all the towns that aggregate into a big pile of smog. So we play a part. Individual, both legal and illegal trucking plays a part. We can do as much as we can. Some of the legislation that's forcing, say, electric vehicles will probably help more than we will be able to do at our city, as these companies have to convert. But certainly we're aware of the health issues, and where we can, we look after them. And certainly when it comes to water, we don't let contaminated water get anywhere near our taps or our people.
Thank you. Finally, I just want to say, I work at the college and East LA, and we have a satellite campus here. And I know that we've been trying to build that building for a lot of years now. And a lot of it is the delays is because of the contaminants that Firestone Tire Company left there. And with no responsibility, we're the ones that are having to pay to clean it up as best we can and mitigate it, so we could build an educational community college here in the community, and we're moving in that direction. But it just seems real irresponsible of some companies to do that and get away with it. I want to just mention that the start date for the spring semester for East Los Angeles College is February 10th. So we do have plenty of classes online and in person and hybrid. So please look at that schedule. The other thing is I want to mention that we have a Jaime Escalante math program. I don't know, it's well known. We've been doing it. We're doing it here in the Southeast. We did about 9 classes in the last summer. We're starting to do it this summer. That's good because these middle and high school students could take these classes in math and they could go into the STEM fields. If they do good in Excel and math, they could go anywhere in a lot of the fields, a lot of careers. So we're doing that here in Southgate. We're real proud of that effort. And we're doing it every Saturday between now and the end of March. We're Saturday between 8 a.m. and 12 noon, Southgate High School on Dearborn site, where we have 8 classrooms there. Come inside, and families can sign up the kids. So I wanted to put that out. I also want to put out that, our city's doing something. If you want to take advantage of our gift card, we have a gift card that's still, there's money still there. If you spend $100, you can spend $200, you buy a purchase of kids and support our businesses here in the community. There's a number of businesses that are still there. Just want to put it out there. It's you double your money and you spend it here and the business community benefits. So I just want to put that out there. It's still open for people that want to, you could eat all kinds of restaurants and different places. The last thing, I just want to let staff, let's keep an eye on the federal funding, because I know we do receive a lot of federal grants and so forth in terms of what's going on in Washington with our lobbyists and all that. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman Rios. And before I continue with my comments, City Attorney, do you have any comments?
I checked briefly with the city manager. I understand that most of those comments have already about the public tonight have been addressed. So I have no further comments. I would say that, and I've said this before to the staff here at the city, is that I'm sure that there are a number of residents of Southgate, while they do not live in the burnt areas of Altadena or Pacific Palisades, they work in those areas, whether they're as gardeners, as housekeepers, as day nannies or live-in nannies. They are impacted. And we all know that, there's that whole economy of Latinos that support the domestic life of others and the pool cleaners in those areas, right? And so from night to the next day, 24 hours, they're sort of the ones that are the most difficult to help, the most difficult to identify. But there are a number of organizations out there. The Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, my wife's a part of that, has a fund for folks who, small businesses have been lost. Habitat for Humanity, an organization that is near and dear to my heart. I've sit on their board. They've amassed, I think, almost $10 million of money within the short period of time. And as of today, they were on their way to Sacramento to see if they could access some of the $100 million worth of funding that has been set aside by the governor. So I think that Southgate could play a role in getting that message out to our residents who are impacted, who may not know where to go for resources or may think that they are the forgotten because everybody else is focused on housing or infrastructure or health respect. So I would just think there's a role for us to play there is my point. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, City Attorney. Appreciate that. And thank you to all my colleagues. I always forget the Vice Mayor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, John, just a quick question to address a comment that was made earlier. When we hire somebody, I can't keep them here forever, right? I mean, if they want to leave sometime, it's their choice to leave for a better position. And I mean, I would love to tie Wendy up to her desk and make her stay as long as I'm here, because as the city auditor, I've worked most closely with her. And I would just like to say, Wendy, thank you very much for your time here, your service with our community, and especially your service with me in helping me with my audit. But I always say it's great to hear when people leave for better opportunities and better chances for their growth. And that's something that I'll never hold anybody back from. But I would love to, echo what Mr. Dominguez said and keep you here as long as I can. But thank you very much for that. And John, I just wanted to say that and make sure that I can't keep her, right? I can't make her stay here.
No, we can't. We can't force anybody into involuntary servitude.
Okay.
It's constitutionally impermissible.
Okay.
But we do everything we can to retain employees. We look at benefits, we look at pay, we look at everything we can. But you're right. Oftentimes great employees that leave, they leave for better opportunity. Sometimes that opportunity is more money. Sometimes it's just geographically closer to where they live. So there's lots of reasons why, but we do our best effort to retain our very best employees here. And we do that with a good relationship with our employee associations and our employees.
Well, thank you for that, John. And I know that, we have a long-standing history of our employees being, long employees with our city. Our chief is a prime example of that, where he's been here for over 30 years with us. And also Steve Costley, our Parks and Recs director, who has thrown me out of Southgate Park when I was about 10 years old. Believe it or not, he said, "Hey, it's closing time. It's time to go. Tell your parents to pick you up. Let's go. It's time to go." So,
That's
so-
it. Not that you hold grudges.
right? Not that I hold grudges or anything.
And don't forget, we had a city attorney.
Oh,
here
the city attorney, right? Is
Nobody else wants to come here and be our attorney.
but yeah. Right. And then not to mention our mayor, who's been here for well over 20.
Well, actually, today is the 28th, and
28th year.
yes, historic day
Yeah.
for the city of Southgate.
Yeah. So we do a good job of retaining our employees here. But again, Wendy, congratulations, and wish you the best. So I do want to touch a little bit regarding the wildfires and some of the current concerns that I have, and just that I want to make sure our staff is on the lookout and aware of it is debris yards, right? So I know that the Eaton area has just designated a debris yard in Lario Park. I think it's near the Irwindale area, and I know they're getting a lot of pushback for putting it in that area. And what I worry is that we have a lot of open land here that is not at use right now, and that we could be impacted by some of those debris coming to our community. One of the concerns, and yes, in that area, the affluent area of Altadena, there was a lot of electric vehicles. Those vehicles burned down, and what they have is lithium batteries that are toxic, and they're unable to really determine if, when they're bringing something over, if it's well contained, and the risk in that. So I just want us to be aware that our city has historically been looked at as that maybe they're not paying attention. Let's do something. I want to make sure that everybody knows we are paying attention. We're going to be on the lookout for that. We want to make sure that if something's coming into our community, that it is vetted, and then we understand that what the impact of that could be. So really looking for that. And I also want to thank one of our local businesses in our community who has been feeding the first responders and also the families of the displaced families there in Pasadena, Altadena area. Is Teddy's Red Tacos. Is a business that we have here on Long Beach Boulevard. His food truck has been parked up there for the entire time that they've allowed the food truck to be there, and he's continuously feeding those families. The way we can support him and support his business is just go eat, go support his restaurant here in our community. It's a great place to go. So let's be supportive of that. And I just really want to thank Teddy for his effort and contribution to the families during this time. So yeah, regarding park stuff, I'm also a board member for the Southgate Junior Athletic Association. We have softball and baseball sign up starting on February 8th. It's a Saturday, start around 9:30. We'll go up until about 12. We are asking parents to bring a form of identification to verify the birth date and name for the players. We want to make sure that we're putting the player in the correct age group that they need to be playing. I know sometimes as parents we want to push our kids up to a higher division, but our insurance policy doesn't allow that to happen. We want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on that. So, but it's going to be great. Last year we had almost 1,000 players participate, and we hope that we get the same number this year. And again, sign-ups start February 8th at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. I also want to congratulate some student athletes in our city. The city sectional CIF list came out for our football teams, and we had 7 students listed as representatives of the first team all league that are part of our community. And that's students representing Southgate High School, Southeast High School, and Legacy High School. So I really want to congratulate them, and hopefully maybe we can invite them to a future meeting and maybe present them with a certification of recognition for their accomplishment of being chosen as a CIF first team all league for this year. If we could, I would ask.
No, I think that's a great thing to do, recognize our kids. And also, I believe the cheerleading team
Yes.
also won some trophies. too,
Yes, for
so.
the Aztec cheerleaders, they were
Yeah.
at jams and they tore it up. They had the young girls won first and second place in some divisions. So yeah, would love to be able to honor them here at our meeting. And then I also am the president of the Sela Kiwanis organization. We have our next general meeting on February 19th. I want to invite all the residents and members of our community. The Sela Kiwanis is a service-based organization that we're just trying to provide a helping hand to our youth in our community. Speaking of scholarships, we've accumulated a large amount of scholarship funds that we're looking to find students to be able to benefit from. We currently have over $20,000 raised for scholarship funds that are going to be distributed to members in our community from all the cities in Sela. So really looking forward to it. We have some great events coming up this year. We're going to have, of course, our college fair again. We're going to have our Bell Gardens bike ride, and we're also going to have the Bell Gardens car show, which are all going to be benefits that will help our students here in the Sela region. So please come out and join us. If you want more information, you can look us up at selakiwanis.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. So I want to be very brief. Most of my colleagues already mentioned, most of the topics that they were asked, and I just want to move this meeting forward so we can continue, working on this agenda. But again, we definitely need to keep an eye on our residents, who need our support at this time. And I'm going to ask the city manager tomorrow. I will be going to 2 schools. So if I can get some of that information that Ernesto sent in, I don't know who got that information, so I can come and pick it up and take it to some of the parent centers, just to be delivered so they could have it, because I don't know if LA Unified School District have that information for them, just to make sure that they have it. And again, to Roger Sadi, it was great seeing you. Definitely will try to help you out and see how we can get some of our businesses also involved in trying to get those kids into going to Hawaii. And I remember when you guys took, I didn't get to go, but I know that Bill DeWitt went. Yeah, Bill went, and it was a historical moment for those kids. And I'm sure that up to now, I'm up to date. They still remember that day that when they went to Maui. So looking forward to helping you and trying to get some of those, some of the donations to see if they can get you some of that. And with that, thank you to all of you who come and speak on items and issues. Again, we have open door policies here, and our colleagues, just give us a call, set up an appointment, and we're more gladly to sit with you and talk to you of any issue that you guys have. So let's go ahead and do that. So right now, I'm going to take a 5-minute break because we already have been gone a little bit long. So 5-minute break. We will see you back at 9:10. Thank you.
Because we're well, we're kind of late. Oh, so-
Call back this meeting to order. Are we ready? Okay. We are back. She's coming. Okay, this time we will go to consent calendar.
Happy hour, sorry.
Agenda items 3, 4, and 5 are consent calendar items. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, does any member of the audience would like to speak on any of these 3 items?
So for Lisette Ruiz from Kaufman, regarding item number 4 for the resurfacing project, I see, I was looking through the document and part of it kind of brought up the issue with, increasing safety. And so one of the issues with safety that I've actually seen that I wasn't able to bring up earlier, and I plan on emailing you guys about, is the daylighting law that passed. People, I understand that there's no parking, but people are still like, Councilmember Hurtado said, blocking the corners themselves. Like they're not even blocking next to the corner. They're blocking them themselves. And I actually ran into that this morning during my morning jog in my neighborhood on Rosewood and Tenaya. And, today I didn't have my baby with me. She's actually at her grandma's, which is why I was able to be here without her. But, there's been other issues and times when I have to go on the street because people are just blocking the sidewalk and it's dangerous. People mentioned the crazy drivers and it's a real concern. I believe, we have a right to walk and be safe in our cities. And so I walk in the evenings and I think it's my right to feel safe in my city. And so I would appreciate it if the parking enforcement really took issue. And I mean, if they're not citing people that are parking within the 20 feet, at least those that are actually blocking the corners, because that's not right. And with the resurfacing itself, I wanted to bring up something else about Tenaya and Bryson. That the gradient on that side, whenever that comes, needs to be addressed. During the last rainfall, even though it wasn't really that much, it puddled to the point where I actually had to cross the street. And it's not, the water didn't evaporate right away. So that's also a safety concern. It's not feasible to walk through the depth of water that collects through there. So this is again the southwest corner of Tenaya and Bryson. If that comes through resurfacing, that was another question I had. My area actually has streets that are concrete, not asphalt, and so I don't know if you're foreseeing, the resurfacing project going that far, but if you do, is that something that can be redone? Or, I mean, it doesn't really even look that bad. And it seems a lot better, especially with global warming. The lighter the color of the street, the cooler the effects are around the neighborhood. So that's something I would advocate to keep that if it ever does come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the audience. Do we have any emails on these 3 items?
No, we don't, Mayor.
Okay. Can you respond on the question that it was asked, Arturo?
My apologies, Mayor.
Do you have any answer to the questions
Oh.
that are Liz asked?
Yes, just with regards to the condition of Tenaya and Bryson, we'll take a look at it to see what the issues are and address them from a maintenance perspective. With regards to the question on the concrete streets, will the resurfacing take place where streets are paved with concrete? I've seen a lot of those streets, and those aren't the streets that we're focusing on. They're in great shape and they're lasting more than a lifetime. We're mainly focusing on streets that are made of asphalt concrete that have completely deteriorated. And then just with regards to the resurfacing and the safety issues of industrial, I think that's really more of an enforcement issue on our end. From a project perspective, we'll look to make all of the repairs of the pavement, the sidewalks, the ADA ramps, and what have you to make sure we make the street safe.
Thank you. Okay, what's the wish of council? Council have any comments?
Mayor, I would just like to move that we motion to approve 3, 4, 5. I think we vetted some of these. A lot of us met with staff regarding these issues, so.
Okay, I'll second your motion. Anyone else have any questions, comments? No? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Avalos?
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtado?
Only on number 5, I'm required to recuse myself on item number 3 because it involves the urban orchard and I live within 500 feet. Item number 4, I have to recuse myself because it includes frontage road and I also live within 500 feet. And maybe Mr. Barone, Vice Mayor Barone can consider taking a good look at that before he votes on this one.
On which one, I'm
Okay.
sorry? On which one, I'm sorry?
Item number 4.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, the law requires that we recuse ourselves by law when we are within 500 feet of a project, whether it's where we work, where we earn money. And Vice Mayor Barone is a board member of the Southgate Junior Athletic Association, but it's a volunteer program. And by law, he can participate, but I know in the past we've taken that highest road of recusing ourselves. So he doesn't really have to recuse himself. And there are going to be some times where some item comes up that is within where the park is at, and he may choose to vote, and it won't be a violation of law, but just throw that out for his consideration.
Thank you.
Councilman Rios?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barron?
Yes, and I will, just for clarification, I will not be recusing myself from item number 4 because, as you stated, I'm only a volunteer to a nonprofit, and this is a medial like improvement to a project in our community. So I don't think that there's a need for that. But yes on all 3.
Thank you. Mayor Davila?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, let's, item number 6, I'm gonna ask council to move this item to next meeting. And, but if there's anybody in the audience that would like to, you need to read it into the record?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah, he's gonna.
The City Council will consider receiving and filing a presentation of the Southgate mobile app. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to move this item to our next council meeting.
I'll second that.
But
yeah.
if there's anybody that wants to speak on this item, please come forward. If not, we can wait until next council meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, being none, do we have any comments on this item?
No emails.
No emails?
Maria?
Okay, Ro, yes.
Oh, hi, just a quick comment. I just wanted to say thank you for the staff and the UWS team that were here for that item, and just out of the interest of trying to keep the other meaty items that we have folks here for. We're going to see you at the next meeting, and we appreciate that. And if it's all right with the mayor, we'll try to put that item right at the front just
Yes.
to help for the next time. We appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please, because we do have a motion in a second.
Yes. Councilmember Avalos?
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtado?
Yes.
Councilmember Rios?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barron?
Yes.
Mayor Davila?
Yes. Thank you, and we'll move on to item number 7.
The City Council will consider A, discussing an ordinance amendment regarding industrial uses, land use improvements surrounding 2 future transit centers, and enhancements to commercial corridors to encourage new businesses and development. B, providing direction to staff on releasing a request for proposal, an RFP, to obtain a planning and environmental consultant qualified in addressing the items above, including preparing an environmental document, and C, directing staff to release the RFP to qualified consultants to solicit planning and environmental services. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item does sound like a mouthful, but just to help refresh everyone's memory, back in the fall, there was a discussion on an item that talked about using industrial uses in our city in a different way. That included investigating the concept of looking at larger buildings like warehouses, and if that would be something the city could use. And so there was a direction by council to look into an expanded industrial use study that would involve an EIR process, which would be necessary if we wanted to look at any different zoning or densities. So that action is going to be discussed by John Signo, our planning manager, tonight, because we've done work to get some cost estimates, time estimates, and scoping. So we'll go over that with you to see if you're good with that scoping and the costs. Secondly, we're also planning on incorporating within this concept, while we have the studies, while we have the consultants working, on 2 other important items that I think are important for the future of our city. One is to look at looking at our future transit centers. And when I say transit, I mean trains. The train line that will be coming through the city will be a major hub for all sorts of things. And one center will be at Azalea Mall, just to the east of the tracks. The second one will be down by actually the new Hollydale Park on Industry and Century. And so those 2 sites, cities that have got these transit train centers, they typically do a specific plan, and they talk about how big the improvement area of that would be and what's the vision for that area. Is it to remain industrial? Is it to look at residential, look at mixed use, commercial, what heights might go there? So getting a vision now is really important, because property developers are looking now. They look 6, 7 years ahead of when something's going to happen, and they'd like to know the city's vision. And we should think about the vision so that we're ahead of that and planning what we'd like before it could just happen to us. So that's an item on there. And the third item and last item of this is, while they're at it, give us a review of our commercial corridors and look at opportunities to increase economic development and investment for many of the storefronts that we see on Firestone, Long Beach, Atlantic, Tweedy, for example, where we may have businesses that haven't opened for many years, or they're maybe in disarray, or just need an opportunity for a freshening up of new investment. And our current zoning codes and some of our requirements, we'd like advice to see if there's ways that we can look at best practices in the industry and refresh some of those zoning in order to spur that development. So that's a high-level summary. I don't want to steal John's thunder. He's coming in with the thunder, so get ready. But he'll give the detail, and but that's a high-level summary just to help everyone understand in clearer terms what we're getting to. Thank you, John. Handing it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Easton. John Signo, Planning Manager for the city. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as our City Manager had mentioned, this is a workshop to talk about 3 items. We can go to the next slide, please. And those 3 items are there: the ordinance amendment in regards to industrial uses, improvements surrounding 2 future transit centers, and the third one being the enhancements to commercial corridors. So just to give you a little bit about the background on this, the reason why this is before you is on April 16, 2024, the Planning Commission considered a zone code amendment application. The request was to revise the building area maximums for warehousing land use types. The Planning Commission considered the item, and they actually considered 2 resolutions. One was to amend the zoning code, And then the second was really to study the matter further and give direction to staff to return with recommendations. What the Planning Commission actually did was deny both resolutions. And because it was related to a project, the applicant appealed that vote over to the City Council. And on May 28th, 2024, the City Council considered that appeal of the Planning Commission's denial. And the City Council upheld the Planning Commission's denial of that zone code amendment. But they directed staff to explore alternatives of having a cap on warehousing use, further research the issue on industrial uses. So subsequently, staff reached out to the Cosman companies. They did some research on the matter. We came back on August 21st of last year. City Council received a presentation from Cosman companies. Cosman researched various policies adopted by select cities. They found that there were a few cities that prohibited new warehouses, but most had created policies to generate substantial revenue from warehouses to offset traffic and other impacts. Cosman also reported that there was a high demand for industrial land in Southgate. There are prime locations located near the ports of LA and Long Beach, and also conveniently located just south of downtown LA. There's the growth of e-commerce that also lures businesses and developers to the city. And Southgate has a number of industrial properties that are suited for redevelopment. Cosman saw that there's a potential to improve blighted and underutilized land. There's landowners and business owners in the city that are interested in revitalizing their land. There's land suitable for warehousing and other industrial developments, and there's also opportunities to create jobs. So there's a lot of pros with this, but there's also some cons. So they can be negative impacts associated with that. At the conclusion of the Cosman presentation, City Council took no action on that, but they directed staff to review the options for development alternatives further, and that's why we're back here before you tonight. So the first issue is in regards to industrial uses. We're looking at considering an ordinance amendment on industrial uses, having a broader definition, and particularly in relation to warehousing and truck generating businesses. Our current code requirement has a limit on warehousing use up to 15,000 square feet. And so the part of the review that you would be looking at or considering would be to include eliminating or revising that limit. There's other options you can consider, such as increasing that limit.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, can I put a pause on this? I need to get clarification on this. Okay. Because, well, I'm trying to get staff to remind me, because we did not uphold the decision of the Planning Commission. And that's what the presentation is saying.
Go back to the slide.
I just don't want to give information that doesn't appear to be accurate.
The May 28th entry is what you're talking about.
That's correct.
The City Council considered and appealed the Planning Commission's denial, and they upheld the Planning Commission's denial action.
And that's not true. On a 3-2 vote, we said that we don't agree with that. And what we did is gave direction to look at a solution to this where it doesn't have that limit. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that we have the presentation is accurate here. And that is not accurate.
Okay, well, I can apologize for any phrasing concerns. I think the second point, directed staff to explore alternatives to having a cap, was the intent of that, and the other phrase is no fault of John's, who wasn't even here at that time. So I think the concept was, perhaps the wording was clumsy, but the concept is that we are doing the exploration, but until such time as further directions given, the change could not be enacted. So there is no action or change to the zone. So if that's, maybe the term isn't upheld denial, perhaps it's paused or something, but I think the intent is just saying no change to the land use occurred, and you directed us to have a cap. So I appreciate apology for any misphrasing on that.
And my apologies, if I read the record incorrectly. My
No,
apologies.
you owe us dinner.
Wasn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Back there.
Thank you. Yeah. But ultimately, my understanding is that City Council did want staff to review the other options for development alternatives and come back. And so again, that's why we are here tonight. So that being said, the first item that we're looking for you to consider is really the ordinance amendment on that warehousing requirement and other requirements that you see fit. Currently, that cap is 15,000 square feet. That's a limit on warehousing use. You can either consider eliminating that cap or revising it to something else, increasing that limit or having certain conditions for certain sizes of buildings. The second issue.
Can I voice a concern there? Because my understanding was that to amend it, because my understanding initially, it was going to be amended without doing this environment. And then we found out later on that we had to do this study, right? I mean, because initially we were going to go ahead and
So yes, you're exactly right. And so that first item, when he's talking about getting approval to go forward with that study, it's looking at options that if it were to expand from the 15,000 foot cap, which is a limits sort of impacts environmentally of less traffic, less large buildings. So if we look at a study to say this could be expanded a lot more, much higher, this exact proposal in front of you would be to do the environmental study that we're needing to do. That then if it's done, you have then the flexibility to either keep it the same or move it up all the way to unlimited or medium or anywhere. But the environmental study is what's before you that we're proposing.
And also to be clear for the public, we're not going to decide that today. All we're going to decide today is to go for an RFP, a request for proposal,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct.
And then we're going to also have community meetings, right? To involve the community as part of this environmental.
Yes, in the event when we come back with the RFP and we're before you to award, if you were to say yes to go forward, then we'll have a better schedule working with the consultant that's recommended that would lay out all the steps, which would include community input.
Yeah, so really the purpose of this workshop is to just familiarize or refamiliarize the council on these items, bring this before you, have some discussion, and get some direction. So that being said, the second item that was mentioned is in regards to the future transit centers. We know that Metro is looking at our city and they're looking to put 2 transit centers in our city. So it's really to consider land uses surrounding the 2 Metro transit sites, which can potentially be constructed over the next 10 years. So some of the issues that you may consider or options is really an overlay zone or similar mechanism in order to improve some of the land or land uses surrounding those Metro sites. And the goal is really to promote economic development to make the city better. So the first site is located there on Atlantic Avenue and Firestone Boulevard, east of the Azalea Shopping Center. That's one of the sites where the Metro is looking to, is considering putting a transit center at that location. And so there's several properties in that area. They are owned by different property owners, and really looking forward and seeing how that area can be developed so that it not only helps the transit centers, but it also helps economically the rest of the community. The second site is in the Hollandale Village area, where there's already a draft scope of work that Metro is considering for that Metro Southeast Gateway line. That's what they're considering it. That project area is shown there in the red. It goes north of the 105 and all the way up to Gardendale Street. What we're looking, and we've talked to Metro a couple of times, we're looking to actually expand that project area so that there's connections over to to Garfield, to the west, and also to Paramount over to the east. Oh, I'm sorry. If I could just go back to that one slide. The one thing about that is Metro, we are working with Metro on that. So there is that project area that's already identified, and it's in the Hollandale Village. We're looking to have a transit-oriented development feasibility study. If we could work through, the details and get back to Metro. So yeah, we are working with Metro in this location and maybe possibly expanding the scope. And in talking to Metro, there's other areas in the city that can also be improved. They have other transit-oriented community funding programs available, some new ones. And so some of them apply to transit centers or stops, or half a mile radiuses around those transit centers or stops. And so the area there shown in orange as opposed to the green, those are half-mile radiuses around major transit stops that can possibly qualify for additional funding through Metro. The third issue mentioned is with the commercial corridors. And this can be done with either doing zoning overlay adjustments or some other similar mechanism. And really just to promote more opportunities for business growth and redevelopment along those major corridors. As mentioned, those include Tweedy Boulevard, Firestone Boulevard, Long Beach Boulevard, and Atlantic Avenue. In our general plan, we already have maps. This is out of the community design element, figure CD4, and this shows certain districts that are already identified that the city has been looking at in order to make improvements. This map is figure CD5 of the community design element, and this shows the corridors along our major routes. So some of the roads that we mentioned, Long Beach, Atlantic, Tweedy, and Firestone are included in these corridors. And it's really to make connections between these corridors and those districts that were shown earlier, improving connections to the transit centers and improving the city overall. And so we prepared a scope of work. We've drafted out some of these things that we think are important for the community, that if we hire a consultant, we send out an RFP, that some of the services that we would need, that they'd have to be working on. So that includes researching ordinances of other cities, identifying applicable requirements, some general conditions that we can have, and mitigation measures that we have to lessen some impacts. Identifying constraints and opportunities, because there are, again, pros and cons of this. Identifying impacted streets and intersections, and that's through the traffic impact analysis. Identifying linkages from industrial areas to transit stations and corridors and other major commercial areas. Also, to provide community outreach, as mentioned earlier, you want to bring in the community and get the input from residents and get their ideas on how we can improve the community. Provide recommendations encouraging point of sales, because a lot of these uses, like some of the warehouse uses, really don't bring revenue or any type of benefit other than, maybe a few jobs. So we want to check to see if they are point of sales, and if there aren't, if there's a way to encourage getting those point of sales so that we can have a revenue stream coming to the city. Recommending parking alternatives other than what's in our code. And that might include, getting people to use bikes or other alternative modes of transportation. We're looking at the consultant recommending zoning and other code adjustments. And of course, they'd have to provide an adequate California Environmental Quality Act document, as mentioned earlier. So it's not just, the project. This would fall under a project as defined under CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. And so we would have to either do a mitigated negative declaration, MND, or an environmental impact report. And that's something that the city council would have to consider. Some of the analysis that would be included in there would deal with air quality, noise, and traffic. And if there's any potentially significant impacts, we can draft mitigation measures to lessen those impacts. So we reached out to our bench consultants. We have 3 of them: DeNovo, Kimley Horn, and Echo Tierra. And we gave them that draft scope of work to see how much it would cost. And they gave us a figure in terms of the estimated costs and time frame. In terms of the planning work to do the ordinance amendment and other research, the community outreach, that ranges from about $350,000 to $400,000. For the environmental work, to do the environmental document, that ranges from about $150,000 to $330,000. So in total, you're looking at a project that costs between $500,000 and $750,000, $500,000 to $750,000, plus the contingencies associated with that. In terms of the time frame, they feel that the planning work could take about 8 to 10 months to be able to conduct the studies, reach out to the community, prepare the ordinance amendments. The environmental work would take about 12 to 14 months. to complete, depending on if you're doing an MND or an EIR. Some of that work may overlap, so there'll be, that will save you some time. You could possibly get it down to 12 months, considering that all the city's goals are met and you have major adjustments that are avoided. And our recommendation is that the city council discuss the ordinance amendment regarding the industrial uses, consider the land use improvements surrounding the 2 future transit centers, and consider the enhancements to commercial corridors to encourage new business and development. The second one being able to provide direction to staff on releasing a request for proposal or RFP to obtain a planning and environmental consultant qualified in addressing the items discussed earlier, and including, which includes the preparation of that environmental document. And lastly, directing staff to release the RFP to qualified consultants so that we can solicit planning and environmental services to meet those 3 issues discussed. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, John, for your presentation. Yeah, I was looking at, and I was looking for the fiscal impact, and this is going to come out of our general fund,
Mostly, yes.
mostly.
Yeah, I mean, there's some grants there that we may be able to get to sort of offset the costs, like some of the Metro grants.
Okay. Do you know approximately about how much will be?
So the one on Holladale, we have a draft scope that we sent over to them. The total project is 171,000. The maximum that Metro is willing to give is up to $200,000. So the 171,000, out of that, Metro would be covering about 142,000. There's a local match that the city would have to cover, and that includes a 13,000 cash, and also an in-kind of about 16,000. So really, in order to get that grant for a total project of 171,000, you're looking to pay roughly around $29,000.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
Metro would cover the rest of that 142.
Thank you, John. Okay. Before I open it to the audience, council, you have any questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor. May I?
Yeah,
Or-
go right ahead. No,
yeah.
go ahead.
So one of the things that, and City Manager Rob, if you can kind of touch on this, it is an investment that we could make now, but there is a benefit to the fact that we could offset this cost to developers in the future when development happens in these areas. Can you touch on what that would look like?
Yeah, and thanks for that opportunity. There are impacts, of course, to development, and there are many cities that collect impact fees to a much greater extent than the city of Southgate. Actually, in speaking to consultants, a lot of our neighboring cities, immediate neighboring cities, have been addressing that in the last couple of years. So in parallel to this, we have, through an existing contract we have with Public Works and a traffic analysis group, they're developing some possible recommendations on impact fees, including traffic fees that would thread together with this information to help us see if we are talking about increased development, how do we get a fair payback for the impacts to expanding roads, cleaning, changing intersections, dealing with, say bike traffic, all the things that come with that, the impacts. How do we offset that by making sure that the developer is paying their fair share? So that's a piece of it. And then as far as sort of payback on the actual cost of this investment, as we say open up to more revenue generating opportunities, filling some of those empty lots that we see, changing out some, maybe underutilized spaces with something, even around our transit centers, which might have, 40, industrial spaces that, if that transformed to maybe a higher density retail center with, stores and, taller, very valuable residential towers, even that happen in some other places, the property tax revenue, the sales tax revenue, all that could be a great impact to the city's revenue, which would be over time paying back the costs that we see here.
Yeah, and then in the long run, this is also a way for the city to identify what we can potentially put there, which developers are going to be waiting for before they even decide to invest into the areas. So I think it's a proactive approach. It is a large investment that we need to consider. The the um, the cons of it, if we would not consider, would be delaying projects further and requiring developers to do this study or these environmental impact studies on their own when they bring in a project. And it may not, or may be, or may not be something that we're looking forward to building. And I think this is kind of a way for us to be able to gauge that and provide that info to all the potential developers in the area. So I just wanted to get that information, but thank you.
Councilwoman Avalos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you indicated that they are going to be doing outreach to residents, but it's not specified. I need it to be with specificity. When we're reaching out to the residents, it's not just what is it that you would like, but actually having that honest conversation of the impact on the environment, specifically on those highly trafficked intersections, possible job creations as to what it is that they would like to see, whether it's manufacturing. And one of the other things that I did bring up, and City Attorney, you correct me if I'm wrong, bringing this issue up to the voters and seeing what the voters have to say. Because sometimes, unfortunately, when we do the community outreach, a lot of our residents don't come out unless we're going to be going door to door. Then I'm okay with that. Because then there's no excuse for them to say, I did not know that this was happening. Nobody told me. Nobody informed me. Because I hear that a lot. You know, how did this get on there? Why were we not informed? If I would have known, I would have showed up. Well, you know, it's posted, it's on our website. But unfortunately, sometimes people can't make it, or it's too short of a notice. So that would be my question, if we can put it up to a vote for the residents.
Well, I mean, we'd have to consider that further, but as part of the environmental impact report, you're going to have outreach to the residents in a very structured way, and perhaps greater outreach there than simply putting it out to a voter on the day of election when you might not have good turnout.
Right, right. And if I recall, I mean, in previous environmental studies that we have done, I mean, they do a thorough outreach to the community. They just don't have one meeting. They have several meetings throughout this study.
Yeah, and if I can, Madam Mayor, because I know that this is
Go ahead, go
a
ahead.
subject that we hear quite a bit,
Mhm.
where residents say, "Look, I didn't know that was happening. You know, I wish I could be more vocal." I always invite residents to come in and speak, even if the items already happened. You may bring in an idea or an issue that's related to a past project that we've already voted on, that it may be something we haven't considered yet, and we can always reopen and revisit and ask for additional information on it. You know, we could always do that, and I think that that's an avenue that I would love for residents to be involved, question things, even if it happens after the fact, because it gives us an opportunity to see a different perspective that maybe we didn't see.
Yeah, I hear you, Councilmember. I just think that on the front end, it's a lot more important, because after decisions are made, then it's litigation and everything else. So I think it's important that we get this right. And especially when we know there's a lot of congestion, a lot of truck traffic, and we know that warehousing don't bring in a lot of revenues. I mean, from what I know, they might bring in some jobs, but maybe we got to look at that, because we're going to invest $750,000 from our general account. I think we should look at what is the actual monetary gain that we could expect in some return, because I could see a lot more congestion, a lot more traffic, and it's already crazy on some of our corridor areas, our main corridor like Garfield and Firestone, Imperial, and so I think this is and so we need to ask that question too. Is it where's going down? And the question of if there's some developers that want to do this, help weigh in on the front end and see if you could help us, because we're financially we're also operating in a situation where you know, money is key, especially right now with even Metro. They don't know if they're going to be getting their money, with the Fed that we have, the federal government we have right now. I mean, we don't know. And this is a project that's going to involve time. So I think it's important to get it right because, again, I don't see warehouses, trucks, more truck, and I know that those are some. We have enough of it already, and I think you said it once. I mean, we have Amazon, we have JB Hunt, we have others that are also looking to expand, and it's just we heard earlier the health concerns. So I'm really concerned about the cost of this effort. And if we're going to go down this road, let's be strategic on what types of businesses, where those blighted areas exist, what kinds of businesses that really can have economic and value to our community.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. Go ahead before I open it to the audience.
Yeah. So look, we had a process. The people appealed, they came to us, and now you want to relitigate the whole thing. And I'm not going to just sit here and listen to that. And I'm going to explain why. I attended a ton of meetings of our community when the general plan was made. General plan, page 225, create incentives for employers to locate in Southgate. And when I was there at the meetings, all people said is, we don't really have a lot of good paying jobs here in Southgate. Retail. And, you explain to them, well, there's got to be a balance. We need retail because that brings in the revenue that helps bring in the taxes, the sales tax, that allow us to provide services. But we also need those that do not necessarily generate revenue, but they create jobs that pay good paying salaries. And our residents wanted it. So one of the things that we did, and this is in the general plan, I've read it. My encouragement to you would be to read it. It says create incentives for employers to locate in Southgate. That's on page 225. Page 226, redefine the industrially oriented character of the city of Southgate. And what that was about was to create opportunities for businesses to come in Southgate to provide those kind of jobs. And this is why when we had this issue, and this is why I say we did not agree with the Planning Commission, which is what upheld, kind of sort of implied, and again, that was a bad choice of words. What we said back then was, we are going to ask that we come up with a different number. And here's what I did with Councilmember Rios, and I'm going to do this again so that people can understand. I want everybody to imagine that this is 15,000 square feet, and this is a piece of land. That's what they're allowed to have currently. Here's another piece of land. That's 15,000 square feet. Now I'm going to exaggerate. This whole room is a piece of land, and this is 15,000 square feet. So my thinking is that it should not be based on a specific number because it prevents development that creates jobs. And that's what we agreed to in that meeting of 2024. Now, I'm not into looking into something that brings in all these trucks in the whole bit. I talked about that and how I have concerns about that. But when you read the CEQA book, all 500 and some odd pages, there is no section in there, and I read the whole book. There's nothing in there that says large warehouses bring in traffic. It doesn't say that. What it says is that every project, everything that you want to consider should be project specific. So again, you could have, for example, an In-N-Out that creates a lot of traffic. That's not 15,000 square feet. You can have a Chick-fil-A that creates a lot of traffic. Starbucks, go to Starbucks here on Firestone. You'll see how the traffic can be a little bit problematic. But we have those. So what you want is to allow a business to come in here, and then we look at that project and see what their impacts are going to be. But you can't do that unless you know the size of the facility. So again, I think what we need to do is move forward. And again, we're going to wait till the audience chimes in, but we need to see, nobody can come in here and tell me, hey, a 400,000 square foot warehouse is going to bring this, because they don't even know what the project is. You can have a warehouse, 400,000 square feet, that doesn't bring in a single truck. But by having a policy with a limit, you won't even know. So at some point, when a project comes forward, we look at the conditional use permit, we look at the environmental impact reports, and then we make decisions based on that, not on a set number that just comes out of the blue. And that's what we have. We have an out-of-the-blue system that's 15,000 square feet. Whew. All right. Thank you. It works when you have discussions like this because you get to vent. But I've talked to a lot of people in the community. I've talked to a lot of business owners. I've gone to visit sites, and I've heard what the impacts are. Thank you, Madam
Go
Mayor.
ahead and open it to the audience before we take action on this. Please come up if you have any comments.
Lisette Ruiz and Kaufman. I'm glad that this is coming up now, that you're all putting these projects together, because like I mentioned before, when we brought up the issue of the 15,000 square feet, then I strongly recommended and knew that, that the change would fall under CEQA. And so by doing this, I think, having community input on that is very important. There has been a lot of work done around air quality issues in Southgate. I'm part of the AB 617 community steering group that is, taking the reins in making sure that there are reduction pollution plans set in place. And one of the things that has come up with it from a lot of that work has been the warehouse regulations. And so those are something that are going to have to be looked at when this happens, apart from the environmental impact report. And so there are going to be a lot of restrictions. I frankly don't think, just one swoop of just ending the cap is going to be legal to begin with. So I really think this is something that has to be taken seriously. There are a lot of environmental groups that have been working and have concerns in this community. And so I think we really need to tread lightly and not to mention, the thin line that goes with gentrification when it comes to the transit centers coming through. And if even if we do bring housing, that's another big concern. A lot of those properties around those transit centers are contaminated. And so there are going to have to be a very strong look into what kind of mitigation measures are taken with the construction. And frankly, even if they're not residential, which I would actually push for, I think it's important to make those spaces safe. And even, there's a lot of vapor intrusion concerns in the area, especially close to the LA River, which, brings in a lot of contamination from other areas. So the water table there, I believe, should be between 10, 15 feet. So vapor intrusion is a real concern for folks living around that area. And so that's definitely another thing to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this one stings. I hate that we had to spend, was it 500 to 750,000 from the general fund on doing the proper planning and analysis. But as the vice mayor stated, when I spoke with Ms. Elguita last year, we went over this. She said, look, you're going to spend a lot of money now, but it's going to pay off in the end, because once those fees are established and they start to kick in, and it's going to take a while, but you're going to recoup that money and even more. So there is a payoff after you go through this process. We're gonna get that money back. The thing that I'd like to know is, can't we use the ARPA funds instead of the general fund to pay for this? That's the one thing that kills me, is that it has to come out of the general fund. And so I urge the council members to move forward and do the necessary analysis and proper planning. The thing I want to see if I can do is change your perspective of how you see our city, specifically that northeast portion and the southeast portion. You need to think of that land like the Beverly Hills or Brentwood for industrial use. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, the amount of money that we should be able to capitalize on the uses of that land. And the item report, it had other references of other cities. I think it was like Pomona and other places in terms of references for like the type of fees that they charge. But they don't have our geography. They don't have our proximity to LA and the Port of Long Beach. And so when you do these fees, I didn't like those numbers. To me, those numbers are shit. Our numbers should be double or triple what is in that item report. Those numbers are a joke. So when you do these fees, take it to the maximum. Go all the way. And there was one fee in particular I asked Ms. Elguita about. Mr. Crossley's not here. Quimby fees. I don't know if you ever heard of Quimby fees. So when I spoke with Manuel Carrillo Jr., the director of Parks and Recreation of City of Baldwin Park, and asked him about his splash pad and how it was funded, I asked him, so how did you fund your splash pad? He said, well, you can use ARPA funds, Measure A funds, and CDBG funds. And he threw out Quimby fees. Quimby fees are fees that you collect from, I think it's residential developments. And so when I asked Ms. Elguita about our Quimby fees, she said, oh, your city doesn't collect Quimby fees. And when she said that, I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, you're talking about like 20 years worth of Quimby fees down the toilet that could have gone in our Parks and Recreation Department to pay for those roofs that need to be rehabilitated. So do a thorough analysis of the fees, take it to the max, try to look at our city as really like the Beverly Hills or Brentwood when it comes to industrial land use and yeah.
Thank you.
Richard Lute, 8990 Atlantic, Madam Mayor, council members. So I understand the desire for investigating the transportation corridors and the commerce corridors. That makes sense to me. But when we start talking about the warehousing, we've done that. And that's kind of an issue for me. If we want to spend the money on this, let's cut the money from the warehouses, because Councilmember Rios, you talked about warehouses not making a lot of money, and let's look into that and what we can do. Well, at the last meeting that we talked about this, staff had gone out, gotten recommendations, and was talking about what a bunch of other cities had done to increase revenue from warehouses. That's been done. Why are we going to pay another consultant to give us the same information we got last year? Also, to me, as far as the warehousing goes, this is a solution in search of a problem in every sense of the word. Every possible zoning department in the city of Southgate, if you want to do warehousing, it requires a CUP, which means with or without a cap on warehousing size, the city has 100% control on whether you cite a warehouse or not. 15,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet, it doesn't matter. You can stop any of them with the existing regulations the city of Southgate has in place. At the last time we talked about this, a couple of the council members were saying, if we get rid of the cap, then we're going to be subject to full-blown influx of warehousing. And that is simply not factual. It is not. You have a CUP process that is required already. Doing the CUP, if you require a CUP, you automatically trigger CEQA by having that CUP. So not only do you have the protection of the CUP process, but then that automatically triggers CEQA, which, as Councilmember Hurtado said, on a case-by-case basis, looks at these projects. So for me, and I'm not looking to build a warehouse, I don't have a dog in this hunt. But I'm looking at logic right now. And for a city that doesn't have a whole lot of money, to put any of that money into a study to a question we already have the answers for is irresponsible. Thank you.
Next. Thank you, Richard.
Hello, council members. My name is Emmanuel. I'm a resident of Southgate, and I want to talk about kind of these kind of similar sentiments of what are we even doing, kind of opening up this kind of land to industrial changes and zoning changes, looking at transit corridors. I think that's important to look at, especially with gentrification on the horizon. It's really important that we really consider who the people we are serving and really looking at what kind of businesses we're trying to bring in, or what kind of all these kind of things we're talking about. If we're really trying to talk about where our money kind of comes from and how it can stay in our communities, it means kind of like really bringing in those small business owners into our communities to kind of create this buy-in into our communities that people from our city could actually go to and create kind of buy-in. I wish there was more small businesses that I could go to and spend my money there, but frankly, there is not many community-based spaces that could make this happen. And especially on the kind of topic of gentrification, I'm really concerned about our residents with these new transit corridors and really opening these gates to these multi kind of use housings. A lot of the luxury, we really need to take a look at what affordability means, what kind of community-centered design actually really is focused on, and how we could actually create buy-in into our communities. And we don't actually create buy-in by adding a lot of more of these industrial things. What that actually does is it creates a lot more toxic substances in our airs. We're talking about this 15,000 square feet kind of limit. Why do we need more warehouses? We already have plenty of warehouses in our city of Southgate. We need more spaces in which people could actually develop their careers in ways that are not so centered on just production to things that will eventually be get exported elsewhere. So I really urge you all to take a look at these kind of issues and really think, do we really want to incentivize people who are already bad actors? As we heard earlier, there's already bad actors in play that people are continuing to work on their kind of businesses without any proper permits. We should not be continuing these kind of things and not just wait for, I heard somebody say, a zoning change for these kind of illegal things to not continue to exist anymore. Let's take a look at that actually and what that actually means. How are we actually going to protect the city of Southgate and our residents? I find it interesting that just taking a look at the own words of the city's vision statement, we envision a thriving, safe, and inclusive community where everyone has the opportunity to access exceptional services, education, and support to be resilient and live full, vibrant lives. I wish that for all my residents. And the way we live actual full lives is by having a healthy environment. We should not change the zoning to allow industrial development in our city, and we should continue to focus on how we could actually make our residents of Southgate live a more fuller life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alberto Espiricota. I grew up in Maywood. I live in Bell right now, but I think it's important to know that what we do in the city of Southgate impacts everyone in the area. Furthermore, I think I just wanted to point out that the idea of more warehouse use will lead to better jobs worked in the past when it was unionized. But now, from my experience with my mom, who works in these warehouses and, things like that, that's not the case, right? If it was, then that would be a different question. But we know that the warehouses that come in are not going to be those type of jobs. I ditto what Emmanuel said. I ditto what the woman said too. But yeah, I'll be involved. Just, keep coming to these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Mayor and council members. It's been a long one today, huh? Edgar Pelayo at Madison Avenue, and really just want to touch on this because I think it's pretty simple, right? Do the pros outweigh the cons is really what it comes down to, and I don't think that happens. I don't see that there's going to be, as they mentioned in the presentation, point of sale revenue coming into the city as a result of this change. Essentially, what we're doing is creating or making Southgate a pit stop for the ports. People warehousing stuff here, companies warehousing things here at the city at the expense of, as the gentleman just mentioned, our health, congestion. I know that Councilmember Hurtado mentioned Starbucks has traffic on Firestone, right? We already know that's going to come down and it's going to increase traffic. Bringing businesses into the community. Well, we take a look at Tweedy Boulevard, discount stores and barbershops. Are those the type of businesses that we're going to bring in? I mean, the city really hasn't done a good job in vetting the businesses properly and bringing a good mix of businesses into the community. So I would strongly urge you guys to not go down this route. I'll echo what the gentleman said. It's quite irresponsible to spend $750,000 on a study that really already or wouldn't change much because what's on the books now already takes care of that. So again, it's good to consider options. I just don't think this is one that we should pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna close the audience. And do we have any comments on this item? Emails?
We have no emails. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to council. Councilman Rios.
Yes, thank you for that input. There's a lot to learn. I'm just thinking in terms of, Richard, when we did Amazon, there was a study, right? I mean, wasn't it a pretty comprehensive study? I mean, and so in terms of traffic and some of that, it's kind of, so that's a good point that both of you make, Edgar and Richard, related to, we're going to spend a lot more money, and we already kind of know some of the issues already we're familiar with. I do think that the housing is very important, or the transit center. I think that's what usually happens when you build housing. But a lot, what they said, a lot gentrification, they use that term. That term sometimes means not affordable housing. It won't be for a lot of our residents. It'll be for other folks. I mean, because we've seen it. There's not a lot of affordable housing being built. And so I think it's kind of our responsibility to really, if we really care about this community, to kind of focus. If we're gonna have two transit centers, to kind of work on finding ways to have housing that the residents can afford. And just as far as industrial warehouse, we have a lot of industrial warehouses that are sitting empty right now on the west side. We already know that. So why are they not coming there? They want to come where our court is. They want to come closer to where the freeway. We know that that's where already the congestion is, around this side, around the east side of town. So let's be smart about it. I mean, we have a lot of empty warehouses right now sitting on the west side, on Alameda, and that side. A lot of them. There's a whole industrial park, and a lot of them are empty. So, and here we're talking about more warehouse. So we have the space. If they really want to come into a community, come on down. There's facilities already. So, it raises concern when we don't have a lot of money and we're going to be spending this kind of money for this. I believe in a balanced approach. I want to be business friendly, but I also want to, those jobs that warehouses create, they're not jobs that people, can raise a family on. Let's be real about this. We see it, look in our community, see where they are. I mean, those jobs are not, even Amazon, look at Amazon. When I went to Amazon, I went toward it twice. It's machines that are doing the work. There's not even employees, and their trucks are contracted out, their transportation. So yeah, it's run efficient and everything else, but it's not helping the community. Yeah, they're delivering packages, but it's not creating jobs. And if they are, they're part-time jobs. It's hard to raise a family with those. So, there's a reason why 15,000 square feet, because, and some of our lawmakers knew way back, they put it in place because they didn't want it to get out of hand. Here we are bringing it up again. And so I'm just, I think that we need to think about this a little bit more.
Rob, you had a question?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Great discussion, important decisions. And just to help clarify some of the complexities here, and I do understand from certain perspective, one could say a CUP process is already there. Let's use that tool. And if it only was that easy, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of legal overlay processes. There's a term called piecemealing. And in an event where you're making a decision on a single property, if you have an overlay across your whole city of a certain, say, limit, and you want to then tinker on one property and just do a CUP and crack that limit to something new, that can be viewed in circumstances exactly like our city as piecemealing, which is illegal. And so we had a legal review and confirmed that in this case of any changes to that warehouse cap and moving it upward would require a citywide EIR review, which puts us in this position. And we don't have a choice. It's necessary. So we either leave it as it is or we do a full city EIR, which is very expensive, but we don't have that ability to just property by property do a CUP, unfortunately. But I just also want to add a couple things. When we talk about the EIR process and this study and these recommendations, we can design it however we want. So if we complete this study, you review it and you at that time go, we don't want to change anything, fine. Or you want to take pieces and change it. Or they'll even have examples of, warehouses unlimited size or a percentage of the lot size, as Councilmember Hurtado said, or a cap of 100,000 or a cap of 200,000. Some cities will have up to 100,000 by right, and anything over requires an additional CUP, but we do the EIR ahead of time, proposing the highest level possible so the environmental covers it. There's all sorts of tools. This would be the setting a foundation so that we're ready for options that you would choose. And on an individual project, we still would reserve the right, even if, say, we expanded the amounts to have CUP mechanisms to ask specifics about that use, that pollution, that traffic. So we're not sort of in this one study going to radically change the city, but we're setting a foundation that allows us more flexibility than we currently have. And I'll be as sure as I can. I just want to add one other idea or concept that to a comment here about, the city maybe hasn't done a good job of attracting the right businesses, say in Tweedy in these different areas, a lot of discount stores. Agreed. But how do you get that? We as a city, really, if a private owner has an empty space on Tweedy and it's zoned, say, for a certain use, and for instance, a restaurant could say, hey, instead of maybe another barbershop, I want to put a restaurant there. We'll say, well, let's check our current zoning code. Well, you'll need 15 parking spots for that site to do a restaurant. You may only need 5 for a barbershop. Oh, I've got 5 spots. Oh, but for a restaurant, it has to be 15. Well, I've only got 8 spots available. I guess I got to put a barbershop. Our current zoning limits that opportunity to do new things. And this is not the first city to ever think of this. What we would be grabbing is best practices of cities that have worked on this economic development before us and taken looks at parking limits on types of zoning, and we'd be copying successful places. If you go to some other community and you go, that whole strip mall is a restaurant, it's just hopping, and that's the place to go. They had to do something much like this first to do the foundation to allow those changes. And unfortunately, it costs money up front, and it's slow because there is going to be community input. And when you open the door to the community, you get 800 ideas, and you have to somehow find a way, and it takes time. But successful cities take this time early and are proactive. And so that's just trying to help understand the process, why it's necessary. And unfortunately, it does cost some money, if that's helpful.
And I would just like to add to that. Thank you, Rob, for that explanation. And also, it's the understanding that we're up here not trying to make decisions on what's going to make me popular for 2 years when I run for reelection. I'm trying to figure out what's going to make me popular for my kids when they remember, hey, you know what, my dad did that study 20 years ago, and this is the reason why we have this business and this development here, and this is why these are our opportunities to make generational changes in our community, and we need this baseline to be able to do that. And I understand the idea of saying, why do we need to change? Well, the reality is we are going to have to change. Our city is going to move forward. It's not going to stay as it always has been or always will be. We're moving forward, and we have to be prepared to do that. And the only way we can is to make investments into development and make investments into identifying what we can do in the future. So, I agree that I think it's an investment it's a large dollar amount, but I am almost sure that we're going to have a return on it because I see the vision that everybody else around sees, that Southgate has always been the jewel of the cellar, and their businesses are going to want to come here. Chick-fil-A, didn't want to come here. It came here. It's the fourth largest Chick-fil-A in Southern California. In-N-Out did not want to come to Southgate. It is now the second largest In-N-Out in Southern California. That's what we have to, push over. And if we don't do that, if we don't start making this investment, businesses that are out there or industries that are out there who are wanting to come here are just seeing us as putting roadblocks for them to start a business here. And I love the example of our Tweedy Boulevard. It is need of improvement, and we are pushing. Council members up here are meeting with property owners, telling them it is time for you to invest in our city. Your status quo of just putting paint and putting a new sign up is not going to work anymore. You need to improve the building, figure out a development opportunity, and let's work together to strive to make that corridor what it could be. But it does not just happen, out of nowhere. It takes an investment like this. So I'm looking forward to moving forward.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
thank you.
Councilwoman.
I appreciate the comments and the concerns, and I hear your concerns because they have been my concerns as well. But I think in anything in life, you need to start investing and putting your money where your mouth is. And for me, I'm very much about doing things within a certain budget. But given the fact that we are in the process of change, and unfortunately, a lot of us are still living in the past. Southgate was very beautiful when my family first moved into the city. It's changed a lot. And it's going to continue to change once Metro comes in with the new train systems that are coming in. So for me, I'd rather do the investment today. Let's do the EIR. Let's look at what options we have available, but always keeping at heart our community members, their health, the environment. We have a lot of brownfields here in Southgate. The EPA has come in. You just heard Councilmember Barone earlier. Our wonderful president decided to cut the EPA. So that's going to put a halt on a lot of these brownfields that we were already in the process of working on. That's not going to happen now. So therefore, as a city, for me, I need to be proactive and looking at what our options are. And I am definitely speaking to those that are on YouTube. Get involved. Be that person that is outspoken so that we can all hear all of your voices. If there was ever a time that I would say, Southgate community members, we need you, it's now. Because we need to hear from you what your vision is for the city. There's only 5 of us up here. Our votes are weighed heavily by those people that put us up here. But if there was ever a time that I said, hey, I want to hear from you, what are your thoughts? But it's not just the residents, but it's also the business community, because they're the ones that are going to be coming in and investing, just like Chick-fil-A, just like In-N-Out. Trader Joe's doesn't want to be in our community, and we've tried. Previous councils have tried. Oh, no, we don't want to go into Southgate. They don't see us as affluent. However, our money, our pocketbooks have power. And that's why In-N-Out is thriving. That's why Chick-fil-A is thriving. That's why our Walmart is thriving, and Sam's Club. Because that's where our people go. That's where I go day in and day out. Northgate is thriving because that's our neighborhood market. So Southgate community, I would urge you, this would be the time to get heavily involved, to know what's going on so that your voices are heard, because it's your community. I just happen to live in it. I just happen to represent you because you voted for me, as well as you voted for my colleagues. But if there was ever a time, this is a time to get involved. And thank you to those residents that are still here. And those of you that are watching on YouTube or are going to watch it in the future, please make your voices heard, because your input is going to be critical when the outreach is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and I agree with what you just said. we definitely need to get involved in order to make changes. I mean, yeah, as we always have said, sometimes we make tough decisions, and this is one of the tough decisions that we need to take upon. But if in order for us to see changes in the community, we need to make changes in the zonings and sometimes the businesses don't want to come in, retail don't want to come in because of the zones. And some of the businesses that we have right now, we had to change the zone in order for them to come in. So I mean, I agree with all of you, and sometimes it's hard to think about the funding, but again, in the long run, the city is going to benefit from the investments that we do today, and we'll see that in the future. Maybe I won't see it, but like what Council Vice Mayor Barron said, our future children, our future grandkids are the ones who are going to benefit from what we're doing today. And I'm looking forward to, for my grandkids, I mean, to see the benefits that we have approved today. So again, get involved. Just what Councilwoman Navalo said, get involved. We need to get involved. When those meetings come, please go. Call your friend. I mean, as we saw today, we had a lot of people here. Go to those meetings. Give your input. And that goes a long way. Same thing happened when we did the Azalea Shopping Center. There was a lot of outreach. There was a lot of input. And look what we have now. So we need that all to happen again. So what's the wish of council?
I have not made comments
Oh,
yet,
you
ma'am.
did? Really? I thought
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah, I was before they spoke, and then I was respectful and let them speak. And
Go ahead.
all right, so first of all, it was mentioned that policymakers in the past put this 15,000 square foot limit. He's absolutely correct. I was one of them. But I'll tell you, when that discussion took place, we had hundreds of pages of material to read. And that 15,000 square foot was added as a footnote with an asterisk. Got to tell you, with all the hundreds of pages, you're bound to miss something. And I did. And I think my colleagues did as well. But that being said, when again I mentioned the general plan, people came into the meeting. That general plan wasn't just made up by 5 council members and staff that said, hey, let's put these thoughts together. No, it was community meeting after community meeting after community meeting. And I met with hundreds of people. And what you see on the general plan is exactly what they wanted. They wanted the city of Southgate to create good paying jobs. Now, many, many decades ago, a lot of industries came in and they polluted the ground. They polluted the water. They polluted the air. We are not going to do that. And that's why when you consider any project, you look at the environmental impacts. And I will not be supporting anything that does not include any of that. And every project that comes in here will have to go through a process like that. One of the comments that was made was about union jobs. When that meeting took place, I don't remember the date, in 2024, when we had the meeting where we voted to try to make the change. I think it was March, May, was it in May? May of 2024. This place was packed, wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder, by union people asking us to remove this 15,000 square foot limit. Union people. They wanted us to make a change. SEIU, Carpenters Union, and all kinds of people. And we heard them, residents of Southgate, saying that they wanted this change. And that's why we're where we're at today. So it's not like we just want to come in and say, industries, come on in, and we're not going to worry about pollution. We're not going to worry about traffic. We're not going to worry about union jobs. That's not it at all. We've heard the people of Southgate, and we're here now because of that. Okay, thank you. I will make a motion to move forward with A, B, and C.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Avalos,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtado,
Yes.
Councilmember Rios,
No.
What happened?
Vice Mayor Barron,
Yes.
Mayor Davila.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 8.
The City Council will consider receiving and filing a report on virtual platform options for public participation at the City Council and Commission meetings, including costs involved and factors weighing in favor and against such use, and provide direction.
All right. Thank you,
Wow.
Mayor.
Mayor, because it's late, it's 10:30, I mean, so I got a meeting in the morning, early in the morning. Is there any professional critic? Can we move this one to the next item, next week or next time? I mean, it's kind of
the
late. I
next
would like to
meeting?
have more input too, more people. This is an important decision. I know a lot of people have waited here, but I would like to see more people involved in this decision.
Yeah, to make
A
would
motion to
agree.
move it to the next item.
due to courtesy, we do have people, we do have to open it to the audience if they want to speak on
Yes.
this item, so we have to read it into the record. Oh, you did already? Oh, wow, you're fast. Okay, so was the wish of council, do you want to move it to next meeting?
I would agree to move it to the next meeting, if you don't mind.
What is it?
I think he wants to speak.
No, I'm going to go ahead and open it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we are, agreeing to move it to next council meeting. Okay, so at this time,
You can still
well,
speak.
we're not going to take action on this item, but if you do want to speak on
what
this item.
Councilmember,
please
come
go
on,
right ahead.
let's knock this one out. Come on, we can knock this one out real quick. Are you kidding me here? You know, you guys did the same shit last time with the Granicus deal in
Would you like-
2023.
Your
What?
time is going to be running.
Yeah, and I see it. Yeah, I mean, you guys did the same shit with the Granicus deal in 2023. You know, everyone, someone was sick, had to kick it down the next meeting. Someone was out of the city attending a conference up north, had to move it down again. Someone was ill. No. There was a death in the family, had to postpone it. And it wasn't until finally November. The whole year went by. And it took forever just to get to this point. Now you want to delay it. All right, look, what I want to say is, hold on, what I want to say? Oh, okay, so regarding the 112, the 12,000, where do I have it here? The $12,180 for the cost to man the phones. So when I look back at the Granicus deal, the item report, that was for 4 cameras and for a 1-year contract. Just the 1-year contract alone was $112,800. So the $12,180, you need to look at that as an investment. You're investing in the residents and their ability to participate in our proceedings. And in the Granicus deal for that item report, it said that the way you could have funded that was with ARPA funds and the Public Access Fund. So if you're wondering, well, how are we going to cover the 12,180? Just take it right out of the Public Access Fund or the ARPA funds. And the thing that I want to say to the council members, you have no problem funding the hell out of these big departments of ours. You'll throw all the money we have at them to give them the things that they need to conduct their business and their operations. But then when it comes to the residents, you show us no regard. You ignore us. And last year, you gave community development, what was it? 2 brand new vehicles for community development. And here we're asking for a fraction of what was for the Granicus deal, $112,800. What was the other thing? Oh, yes. Last month, the council members spent $30,000 on snow. $30,000 on 1 day of snow for our kids to have a fun time, a great memory. So if you're willing to make that sort of investment just for 1 day, here, think of what the payoff is with this. We're talking about just $12,180 to give us this phone-based calling feature. And it has to be a phone-based calling feature because Zoom is shit. Our city is not sophisticated enough or to handle and take on Zoom. So, yeah, that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Next.
All right, Armando Velasquez, Independence Avenue. Thank you for allowing us to continue to speak. I can't be here at your next council meeting, which again brings up the whole necessity of having some type of a remote option. As much as I would love to be here at every council meeting, I just simply can't. But having a remote option is absolutely something that would be beneficial. I took advantage of that when we had Zoom sessions. So I think we need to move forward with that, but take the cautionary steps. Obviously, you don't want to violate the Brown Act, and I know that there's possibilities of that whenever systems shut down. I get that. Take that into account. Sound, maybe offer the council headsets so that all they hear is the Zoom comments from the audience, but take those steps. Take progressive steps. Internet connection, have yourself a big, mighty hotspot connection in case something goes down. Take those cautionary steps. Make sure you have that Spanish interpreter for those who are listening in on Zoom and want it in Spanish. And other than that, in the previous topic that we just had, we want to be a progressive city. This is a progressive topic. So no matter what hurdles that are going to be thrown your way, do it. Do whatever it takes. Be a progressive council. I want a progressive city. So I would like to see that remote option happen.
Thank you.
Good evening, Lisette Ruiz Kaufman. I want to echo what Armando just said, and I too don't know if I'm going to be able to be here next week. I haven't been able to have a babysitter for, since December because of a lot of family issues. And so it's hard. My kid's 1.5 and she's already acting like she's 2. She's pretty loud, running, climbing on everything. And I actually wanted to bring her today just so you guys can see that, that's a potential attendee here who's not going to let, work be done. And as much as I love her and I miss her, that's another issue too. Today I wasn't even able to see her go to sleep because I'm here. And so it's a hard issue. And I understand the problems, but, there's always a solution. Where there's a will, there's a way. Our neighbor, Cudahy, still has they're still doing hybrid models. They're still able to run their meetings. I spoke to Elizabeth, one of the council members there, and she says that, the thought hasn't even crossed their mind to end that, and they still get public participation. So if they can do it, why can't we? They're next door. If things get really that bad, things can get moved. It's risky, but it can be done. And like, Armando said, have a headset, that when I was at the Board of Environmental Safety, we were still running our meetings hybrid with Zoom. It was definitely a challenge. Bandwidth was definitely a challenge. But, we always found a way. We either, got a service to come in and expand the bandwidth. We did what it took. We had, translation available, and we made it happen. They're still doing that right now. They're not foreseeing getting rid of that option because they understand the importance of community input. The more information you get, the better, you can run the city. How is it right now? Even when we had the union members, how many of them were even from our city? We missed out a lot of those voices. And even though I don't agree with, a couple of them, I still think their perspective is important on some things. But, it's more for us to consider. And I think that's definitely a value we should consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, Council. Edgar Pelayo, Madison Avenue. So just want to kind of touch on this. I think it comes down to engagement and representation. And you folks are up there because you're here to represent us. And in order for you to do that, you have to have your thumb on the pulse. And in order for that to happen, I would imagine as public servants, you would like to have channels by which the community can get involved via, phone and emails and in person, right? Not everyone can make it. And so I think that would definitely benefit the city as a whole. I know that in the previous topic, we said about getting involved and then having that change. Well, this is the kind of change, this is the right change that we need for the city. You know, I think that we're in favor for change, but it has to be the right change. So I think that, you know, there has been some issues with people taking advantage of the system and perhaps calling multiple times from different numbers. Also, there's an issue with funds, right, to fund this program, and I think those are things that definitely can be overcome, and it'd be a shame to punish the community for over a few individuals that would call and maybe make a few calls, you know, get extra time to provide input. But again, this is a thing that I know that Councilmember Avalos mentioned that, you know, people aren't getting involved. They don't know what's happening. I believe Councilmember or Vice Mayor Barron mentioned that as well, right? This is an opportunity to make that happen. This is an opportunity to get people to be able to provide that input. I know that we have low voter turnout here in the city, and this is another opportunity to change that. People may feel that their voice is not heard. And so again, this call-in feature can definitely benefit the city as a whole. So I encourage you guys to consider it, and hopefully we can have this feature added for next meeting or the meetings to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close the audience. Do we have any comments?
I received no emails.
No? Okay. So can I get a motion to continue this item?
So moved.
Second.
Second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Avalos,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtado,
You know, I always appreciate professional courtesy, but in this case, I'm going to vote no, and I'm going to tell you why. I really think that we could have dealt with this tonight. You know, we took an oath of office to be here. You know, we used to have meetings that would go past midnight, and now we're going to shut down because, okay, never mind, vote no.
Councilmember Rios,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barron,
I will vote yes, but I would definitely ask our council, you know, to be mindful of the fact that we have residents that show up here to conduct business. And I will grant the professional courtesy, but I too have to be at work at 5 a.m. and I'm still here and I'm ready to act if we need to. So I will ask you to be mindful of that as well, that we have people who are here and then we want to make sure that we can conduct business here. But I'll go ahead and grant the professional courtesy at this time.
Mayor Davila.
Yes, and I'm going to ask the city manager if you can please put this item at the beginning of the meeting,
Yes.
because this is an item that needs to come forward to the council.
Certainly, I think we'll have both the other item we deferred and this item at the beginning of the meeting. The other one being the app and the bulky item
Yes,
update.
please.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, just because it's just hitting me right now, whenever we continue any items, can we just make it a procedure where we'll put it at the beginning, just for professional courtesy for the
For those who are
community?
here.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a reason why we're continuing it. Same thing with item number 2, just so that it gets heard earlier than
Definitely.
later.
Okay, now the motion passes. Move on to the warrants. City auditor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to go ahead and open up to any member here in the audience who has any questions regarding the warrant register
Vice
for,
Mayor, if I can read it for the record.
Oh, go ahead.
so you're not that fast.
The city council will consider approving the warrant register for January 28th, 2025. Grand total is $3,917,722.80. Cancellations are 108,079 and 108,270. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to open up here, any member in the audience, seeing none. I will go ahead and close the audience portion. Any emails?
No
Madam
emails.
Clerk? All right, what is the council's wishes?
Motion
moved.
to approve?
Second.
No,
Yeah.
okay, we have a motion.
We have a motion and a second, please, roll call.
Councilmember Avalos,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtado,
Yes.
Councilmember Rios,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barron,
Yes.
Mayor Davila.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes.
With that, before we adjourn, we are adjourning in memory of Hortensia Corrales, Southgate resident for over 55 years. With that, can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
That was not good. I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna call people up and come in and do that. That's not what we do here.
Come on, Gil.
Courtesy.